Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for the second match of the British and Irish Lions series. Although some would consider this the first one, it is in Australia, taking on the Western Force in Perth. We're about 20 minutes away from the kickoff, but of course the redemption arc for this British and Irish Lions side already starting after a defeat last week to Argentina. They are now in full force with all of their big guns blazing, and this game should be absolutely awesome for the first match of the Australian leg. But looking through at the starting lineup, first of all, for the Western Force, it is Tom Robertson alongside Brandon Paenga-Amosa and Ollie Hoskins as the number 3. Seb Carter in his last game of pretty much any sort of competitive rugby in that number 4 jersey, with Darcy Swain slotting in as the number 5. Will Harris at 6, Ikawasi at number 8, and then to champion to Chris Pigney as the number 7 there as well. Did have a very good season for the Western Force throughout Super Rugby Pacific 2025. Of course, they would have loved to have Carlo Tizzano in that loose forward trio after the season that he's had, but of course making his way into that Wallabies environment. Nick White will be the number 9 with Harpard at 10. Hamish Stewart in the midfield alongside Matt Proctor, with Dylan Peach, Mac Greeley, I should say, and Ben Donaldson returns from the Australian camp due to the injury of Kurtley Beale. He has stepped up. He's decided to go for that number 15 jersey here. Should be definitely a player keep an eye on for this matchup. He'll also go back with a little bit of inside knowledge about this British and Irish Lions side, who do stack up very nicely for this matchup. Pierre Schoolman alongside Dan Sheehan, who is the captain of the British and Irish Lions here, with Tyg Furlong, his Irish teammate, slotting in as the number 3. Scott Cummins alongside Joe McCarthy in the locking duo. Tyg Byrne at 6, Josh Brandon Flair at number 7, and Henry Pollock in what isn't really his preferred position, but a spot that they've decided to give him for this matchup. He will be there as the number 8. Thomas Williams alongside Finn Russell. That is definitely a dangerous duo to be able to have in that 19 channel. I do think that Thomas Williams off the bench in last week's game did look very strong for the short amount of time that he was on the field up against the Pumas. Finn Russell, of course, that unpredictability of the number 10 jersey. That man could go for cross kicks. He could go for cutout passes. He could even run it straight up the middle, although, of course, a couple big men in that Western Force lineup. Sione Tuipulotu keeps his spot in the centre pairing, although moving from 13 to 12 for this match in the absence of Bundy Aki, with Gary Ringrose slotting in at number 13. James Lowe out on one wing, Mac Hansen out on the other, and Elliot Daly at number 15. So when you consider what the lineup was last week for the British and Irish Lions, of course, a lot of Leinstermen coming back into the side and quite a few other switches taking place as well. I believe there's only about 2 or 3 men who actually kept their spot in the starting lineup, which just shows you how many different players, of course, that are going to get the opportunity throughout this British and Irish Lions tour. In the chat, we have got there Hamish looking at where the Force ended in Super Rugby. Don't have much hope for them here. Says Sakabula. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the British and Irish Lions, they come in as heavy favourites into this matchup, which makes sense because, you know, they've got all their big guns back and they do have a very strong side. The Western Force, though, if I've learned anything from Super Rugby Pacific, is to just never trust the Western Force, because every once in a while they pull off big victories. And I'm not saying this one's going to be one of them, but there's just half a chance that randomly here the Western Force just click and, you know, maybe they are competitive in this matchup. We have got there how long till kickoff, sitting around, I'd say, 15 minutes away. Now, initially the kickoff for pretty much any broadcaster that I've seen, the likes of New Zealand and whatnot, say that it's starting now, but it's still another 15 minutes away or so. Do you know when South Africa's playing? They are going to be playing at 5:05 p.m. South African time, 3:05 a.m. for us here in New Zealand. We are going to be doing a whole hour's build-up for that matchup, so of course be sure to tune in nice and early. How are we, Hamish? This is Tractor Sports. Doing very well, Tony. Hopefully you are doing well too. Almost international rugby, or in fact we are into the international rugby window now with a few big warm-up games coming. And then also next week, extremely hectic with the amount of games that are taking place. We have got there, this Māori AB's team is just full of, says Ivan there. Yeah, they haven't been going too well at the start of that game up against Japan XV. I did see the score last I saw was 10 points to 5, but I'm not too sure what it has changed now. We have got there, okay, thanks, says Paul. And also 5 today, South African time, says Sakabula. And why is it showing this name for me weird? I think YouTube had an update, and now it's got your @ rather than your rather than your username, which I think is going to be very confusing because, you know, you're normally Novmum, but now it's got Jasmine as your name. It's only because of your picture that I've recognized it. So, yeah, we'll have a few people with different names than what they normally have. Heard the rookie Welsh, loose-haired. A man, yeah, okay, is catching a flight. I'll be honest, I read it briefly before, Tony, and in my head I couldn't work out what it was. When I was about to say it, it definitely kicked in. But no, not quite on the plane at this point in time. Who's doing this Māori AB selection? I hate this whole selection, man, says Ivan. What's up, Hamish? How are you? Says Demon the 11th. Doing very well. Excited for this game, of course. Japan XV sitting 17-15 at the moment, and Ben O'Keefe reffing expects some 50-50 calls. Isn't that the best way of refereeing, it being 50-50 between the teams rather than 100% going just the one way? But Ben Donaldson, big opportunity for him in that number 15 jersey here. Going head-to-head with Elliot Daly. Should be an intriguing one, definitely because it could happen later on in the British and Irish Lions tour. Looking through at the benches, Nick Dolly, Pierce, and that is a name and a half of Tawakai Pulu, I believe it is, for the pronunciation. 5'4" in the number 19 jersey. Reed Prinsep, an experienced man at number 20 with Robertson, Berry, and also Quinzel as that number 23 for the British and Irish Lions. They have got Ronan Kelleher, Andrew Porter, and Will Stewart as the front row replacements. Ollie Chisholm, Jack Conan, Alex Mitchell, who did actually start the last match for the British and Irish Lions, Hugh Jones at number 22, and Marcus Smith comes in at 23. He will definitely want a big performance here after a very mixed bag of a game up against the Pumas. And while we're mentioning that game, 28 points to 24, the victory for Los Pumas. This game, the Force, you are reading that correctly. They come in as a $16 underdog. Just to put that into comparison, the Māori All Blacks in their game up against Japan XV. Japan XV were about a $10 underdog at their worst in that game. So they are saying, of course, I mean, the Japan XV are currently leading, but they are saying that this Western Force side, looking at the odds, have no shot of winning this game. But sometimes, like I mentioned, the Western Force, they have been an underdog all throughout Super Rugby. They have had some pretty brutal losses throughout recent times. In fact, they're on at least a 4-match losing streak. As you can see, they're losing to the Blues, the Brumbies, the Fijian Roa, and the Waratahs. But they're a feisty side. They've got a bit of oomph about them when their back's up against the wall. Someone like a Will Harris is a very talented player in that loose forward trio. Ikuwasi is out there as well, can put in some big hits. I feel like physicality, can the Western Force match them? They're showing here Gerard Butler. He's doing some sort of promo for the British and Irish Lions tour by the looks of it. We have got there, goddamn, says Distracted Sports, Māori ABs are already stuffed up when they didn't pick Rona at 13, says the Sporting Kiwi. I feel like 3 more players should have been in this lineup. Matt Ferguson, Jack Crowley, and Blair Murray. I think Jack Willis should have been picked ahead of Henry Pollock. It was an interesting choice seeing Pollock in that number 8 jersey. Of course, Jack Willis, he's been doing very well as of late in terms of in France. And then also he did play in that England XV versus France XV, didn't he? We have got there excited to go watch the box later. So excited. Says Float Like a Bee. See, at Float Like a Bee, it's got JP as your like profile picture. So what was your original name? I feel like I'm going to be set up by a few of these ones that have changed now, just due to YouTube's update. Good evening, Hamish. I've decided to focus solely on tequila tonight. I've also put money on the men from Perfontaine to take it. And also we have got, you made a mistake covering this game rather than Japan versus Māori All Blacks. Says Kiwi Rob, what kind of mistake is that? It's a British and Irish Lions tour, is it not? And how much Māori does Cullen Grace have in him? 0.0001, says the Sporting Kiwi. And g'day, says David the Mod. And there as well. But this match only 10 minutes away from kicking off, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, do let me know your score predictions. Do you see it being at all close, or do you see it being a very one-sided affair between these two sides? That child is dressed like Deadpool. Fair enough. And we have got the, how's it all looking forward to this? Says Exo Horizons. But it's an Aussie, not Kiwi tour, says Kiwi Rob. Fun fact, the last British and Irish Lions tour was in South Africa. And we also covered that one on the channel too. We can't just cover rugby that's taken place in New Zealand, because if you're being technical, the Māori All Blacks are playing in Japan. So for that reason, you're also saying don't cover that one because it's not a Kiwi tour. See what I'm saying? But they are just showing Finn Russell what he was able to do in the Six Nations. Goal kicking percentage, 71%, although I do think he's going to get plenty of practice in this game if the Western Force defence do not muscle up early. Do you have a score prediction? I just don't for this game. I could see 60 points scored, but I'm not sure what the split is. Like 45-15 would be brutal for the Force, but honestly, it could happen. I'm looking forward to a thriller tonight. Says David the Mod there. And Hamish has a point, says K-Dog. And it is a full-strength team with Harry Potter in it. I would pick the Force, but they're missing far too many first-choice players. Yeah, like not having Carlo Tizzano, I think, is a massive hit because that man has the most tries out of any player in Super Rugby Pacific. Give it a break, Rob. Rob will not give it a break. Rob has to complain about something in his life. He's probably been quite bored this week. We haven't had too many live streams coming up this weekend. We have got there, what team do you think I'm going to support today? Springboks or the Barbars? To be fair, the Barbars don't look too bad in terms of their lineup for that contest. I do think that the men in the green and the gold, even though it's raining, should still be able to get the job done, but I really hope it's a good game. I know they are visiting Australia, but would love to see British and Irish Lions versus Crusaders. Hopefully, we get to see that sooner rather than later. Of course, we've got to wait 4 years, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The Force are going to get smoked. Says Kiwi Rob there. It's raining a lot in Cape Town where the Springboks are playing, says Mohadeen. And yeah, the weather's supposed to be awful for that game, but I'm hoping the rugby's going to be sensational. And we have got the air, but what an amazing 0.0001. I assume that is for Cullen Grace and Calderbro. 34 points for 21 in favour of the Lions. A Barbarians team today is star-studded superstars, says Jack. And there as well, they are just having a conversation with Dylan Peach at the moment, ladies and gents, as we get close to the kickoff of this contest. Only about 8.5 minutes away. Lions by 50 for me. If they gel, Force will ship some points. Let's hope I'm completely wrong, says Studs Rays. I saw earlier on you said you also put the house on it, so in that regard, I do hope that you are correct. I think the Lions is going to come back with a point to prove. Game of the week weekend, definitely the Springboks proper rugby, says Jean, although they're playing up against Barbarians, who are known as one of the most unorthodox teams in rugby. They're playing in dreaded conditions in Cape Town. I hope it's the best game, and honestly, if it does end up with both sides playing at their absolute best, it could even be close to game of the month, game of the year. But I just worry that there's too many factors that might ruin it. But I'm still 100% excited for that contest. And we're only sitting about probably 5 hours away from that one taking place. There's a young Tongan playing for the Force tonight, says Distracted Sports. See, now I know it's coming, Tony. You've got to put a few other messages in between so that I'm not quite ready for it. Considering they haven't played since May, do you seriously think they stand a chance? Says Kiwi Rob. I mean, a few of those guys, of course, would have been staying fresh because of, you say like they haven't played since May. May was last month. That's not really that far away, is it? Like a lot of those guys for the British and Irish Lions as a team, in terms of internationally, hadn't played together in about, 4 months or so when they did come into their game up against Argentina. And we saw a bit of rust there, but I'm sure a few of these Force guys have still been in training, definitely with that Wallaby setup, and Australia A is always not too far away. And we have got their Boxers ABs at Eden Park, number 1 by far, says SoCal Dreaming. My only concern with that game is that it's built up as a blockbuster and that it should be incredible. And you always wonder whether or not it's not going to live up to expectations. I really hope it does, though, because that game will be absolutely insane. If isn't starting, I'm not having it. I like that one quite a bit, Tony, to be fair, that name. Maybe I should name my child that. We have got there, they don't have the depth, Kiwi, says Roger. Hello, who's this silly guy? Says Brandon. And then Barbar's going to run right on the box. And also, cheers for the live stream. Great. The Lions are here. Excited that All Blacks start against France in a few days. Yes, says John. Yeah, there's a lot of great matches coming up for international rugby. And we've actually got what is happening next week here, ladies and gents. So the Reds on Wednesday will be taking on the British and Irish Lions. That is taking place in just under 5 days' time. That is going to be the kickoff of the exact same time as this game kicking off, which is actually 10 rather than the 9:45. New Zealand Maori, they will be taking on Scotland for the early game on Saturday, overlapping with Japan versus Wales. New Zealand taking on France as a 7:05, and then the Waratahs, they'll be taking on the Lions at 10 p.m. as well. Moving on to the rest of the evening, because not only is this all the rugby that's taking place next weekend, Then there's all these games, ladies and gents. South Africa will be taking on the Italians for their first match up against each other in their tour. Georgia versus Ireland, that game overlaps, or maybe not quite, depending on how long the Box versus Italians goes. Argentina versus England. Chile versus Romania, yet to have a time that is determined. Argentina XV in action up against Brazil, and then USA taking on the Belgians, and then Australia versus Fiji. Now, of all those games, we're probably going to be covering, I would say, 5, 6, maybe 7, depending on which games are being shown here in New Zealand and what time they are all taking place. Prediction for the AB's Box Series. Are we talking about the 2 matches this year, or are we talking about the kind of longer term when we get to see them tour up against each other? I can't wait for the NPC. It's always quality, even though the crowds don't show up. Says the Sporting Kiwi. Like, to be fair, near the end of Super Rugby, we didn't see crowds showing up either, the exception of that final. But yeah, NPC is always very entertaining here in New Zealand, and you get to see some very high-level rugby for a comp that sometimes gets brushed over a little bit. I hope the handling error epidemic from the South African franchises don't make its way to the Box. Bulls, Sharks and Stormers had some poor handling at the back end of URC, says Christopher. Although from the chat, according to a lot of people that we saw for those matches, that was down to the coaches, not the players. They said that when they put on the international kit, their hands work differently. So hopefully that is the case. The 2 games in New Zealand, Hamish says SoCal dreaming. And yeah, it could be 1-1. Like last year, South Africa got 2 wins over New Zealand. I could see them coming over to the Kiwi land and getting at least another one. Like at the end of the day, they have got a very strong squad at the moment. Barbar's always ambush a team. ABs have been a victim of it too. Bok might be cold right now. And as the show in the match, we are just going to be doing the commentary for the game. I noticed that in terms of where to watch this game, it's either Sky Sport here in New Zealand, Sky Sport in the UK, which I was quite surprised. Correct me if I'm wrong, ladies and gents, but there has to be a free-to-air option in the UK for these games, doesn't there? I know that Sky Sport was the one that I saw being promoted quite a bit, but I'd like to think there is another one somewhere in there too. They are idiots, says Christopher. Are you doing any of the World Under-20 Rugby Championship starting Monday? We are certainly going to be trying to do our part in covering that one. I'm not sure how many games we'll be able to get, but we're going to be working on at least a few of them, hopefully. And we have got their... I also say South Africa not a good team. Meanwhile, they're ranked number 1 in the world. And next minute, they beat New Zealand at HBF Park. And nope in the UK, says Adam. See, that seems brutal that they haven't got a free-to-air option for the British and Irish Lions tour. Like Argentina versus the British and Irish Lions last week, I think there were like 4 or 5 different free-to-air ways of watching it. So it just seems weird that they put it behind a paywall. I saw that Sky Sport, to be able to sign up for it, is an extra like £22 a month, which I guess you almost get the whole month in, other than the fact that for the last game of the British and Irish Lions tour, it's a sneaky August game between the sides. So if you were to get 1 month, you get all these games except for that one. Unless, of course, they don't charge you at the end of the month. Then if you're strategic, you may be able to sign up here and then work all the way down and get all those test matches in there as well. But a lot of red kits in the stands, which is fantastic to see. Of course, one of the beautiful things about the British and Irish Lion Tour are the amount of fans that do turn up halfway across the world to be able to watch these contests. Nick White leading the side out. Lions in Western Australia from 1930 to 2013. They've played 5-1-5. They have never lost. Western Australia. Do they have a different network to Sky Sports in Ireland that is free to air? RTE2, is that a way of watching it? Free to air in Ireland. Okay, so it's just maybe in England that isn't a free to air option. And what has happened to the UK rugby coverage? Gallagher Premiership TV rights is a mess now too, says Studs Rays. How's Italy playing? They won their game yesterday up against Namibia, 76-6 or something along those lines, 73-6 it may have been, so a really one-sided game in that regard. But the two sides now have made their way onto the field, ladies and gentlemen, which means we are only moments away from kickoff for the first match of the British and Irish Lions tour on Australian soil. If you haven't already, let me know your score predictions. But this Lions side, they will be fired up. They did not anticipate a loss to Argentina for the first outing, but the guys who missed that game are back, the champions of the URC. It's not on RTE, says Nebo there. And 2-0 for New Zealand versus South Africa, says Godzone. And there as well. But Pierre Scoorman, the big man in the front row, the Scotsman, going head-to-head with Ollie Hoskins. We are seeing that big man there, Sam Carter. I believe it is his last game for the Western Force. South Africans are good guys, but overly sensitivity to any suggestion that someone even explains why someone lost to them, says Roger. And we have got there tonight's drinking game as a shot every time Kiwi Rob complains and whines. I'm going to get wasted. Right, referee in charge of this one, Ben O'Keefe. We are just about to have the whistle, ladies and gents, which will be the tour underway. The Western Force in a beautiful blue kit. I don't think they wore that throughout the season. It looks even brighter than normal. Maybe it was just to avoid overlapping any chance of the red, but kicked off by the British and Irish Lions, left to right, and we are underway for this contest. Nicely taken. Now kick down the middle of the field. Nicely taken by Finn Russell around the halfway line. In fact, this time it's Elliot Daly has taken position. Now Joe McCarthy, the big man, at 5. He's had an outstanding season last year for Ireland. Thomas Williams, decent performance off the bench last week. Ty Byrne yet again in a lineup. That man seems to be working week in, week out, no matter what. Of course, the big thing for the British and Irish Lions here is to avoid injuries heading through this tour. The last thing that you want is to get to that matchup against the Australians in about 20 days' time and not have those key players. Williams again goes back across to the right. James Lowe, long way off his wing, was playing his first receiver there. Williams again goes off to James Lowe. What's he doing at number 10? Who is supposed to be there? I think it's Finn Russell. No idea where he's ended up. Now off to the left, Tyke Furlong. Now Russell gets it away to Scoorman. Tackle well by the Western Force, who aren't really giving away too many metres here. Wide cut-out pass from Finn Russell, close to forward. It's nicely controlled. Out on the wing, 25 metres out from the try line. Now McCarthy with the straightening run. Goes straight. And I believe it would be Matt Proctor. Cross-kick attempt here. That is the elusiveness of Russell. Going out to James Lowe. Close to the sideline. Offloads to Dan Sheehan. Ireland and Ireland linking up. Shoulder to shoulder, and after 11 phases, they have got themselves their first try of the Australian tour. We have got their cash rules, everything around me. Cream get the money, says Alamata. But good try early from the skipper, Dan Sheehan. Finn Russell cross kick, that is the danger that he offers once again, and then just pops it back on the inside. Sheehan does extremely well to get out of that tackle attempt of Dylan Peach after passing it away so that he was ready as the support runner. And like they said, just pinpoint accurate from Finn Russell. James Lowe using the power. Donaldson had to make the low tackle. You can see this game ending up about 80-0. Says Jack Lewis. Yeah, it's certainly a great try early. I see JRK playing wing tomorrow. Why is that? Says Highlanders. It is just because of the bars. You know, you end up with players sometimes slightly out of position. Out on the right wing, they've got Mark Dallaire, and then at fullback, they've got Jaminet. So, yeah, Ratamatabuki Netkin's getting that chance out on the left. I believe he's going to be marking up with Chisel and Colby, isn't he? Or is it Kurtley Aronson, maybe? Actually, who's out on that wing. What time, or what teams are playing in the Barbarian team from? What teams are playing in Barbarian team from? They've got players from New Zealand, from Ireland, from South Africa. Oh, nice take off the kickoff for Dylan Peach, and already the Western Force inside of the 22 of the Lions. But a quick fire start to this matchup, end to end. Nick White going now 10 metres out from the line, right in front of the post. Tackle made on Brandon Paianga Amosa. This is going to be a big test here for the British and Irish Lions defensively. They've talked about it all throughout the week. They want to get what they got wrong last week right. And they want to really, I guess, just find a way of structuring their game. These games up against the Australians. Nick White with the pick and go. He's run into Tyke Furlong, who has swatted him down like he's a fly. Now looking for the turnover, and the breakdown was Pierre Scoorman, unsuccessful. Around the side, Ekuasi, only about 5 metres out from the line now. Brandon Paianga Mosa pick and go. Another slide attempt there from Ollie Hoskins. So they are just taking their time here. The Western Force, Ekuasi with the big dummy. Reaching out was Swain. And an advantage there for offside just short of the try line. Ball's there again. Nick White goes off to the left-hand side. Stuart White cut out pass finds Dylan Peach. Tries to step back and offload to Donaldson. He almost got smashed by Mac Hansen, but 1 metre short of the try line. The Western Force again will try and create an attack. Nick White tries to snipe and he's got the ball down. Western Force fire back with a try of their own. And that wasn't really what was expected there. We have good there, come on, Force. And we have good there's Nick White's mustache. All right, must be because he's just scored the try for the Western Force, managing to answer back only about a minute after the Western Force conceded. It's certainly the start to the match that they would have been after. Well, other than the try, of course. Narrator Nick White orchestrated that magnificently, says Roger. And also we have got there for the All Blacks, says John. And do you think that there's too many hybrid players instead of specialist players? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because Razor did say he wants versatility in terms of players, but sometimes you do need a specialist. And it, of course, depends on what position you are talking about. Representing your club and wearing an unrecognisable jersey. Bad signs from the start. Good luck, though, says guess who? And we have got there where Western Force from. They are from Perth and Western Australia. So for Super Rugby, they play their rugby out of HBF Park. It's, of course, a slightly bigger stadium in the regards of, I think it's at Optus for this game. But that one's gone over. Conversion successful, 7-all now between the Force and the British and Irish Lions. And Nick White has a silly mustache and a silly, silly face. I'll never forgive his dive. I tried, but I have no forgiveness. To be fair, though, there are a few other dives that we can think of that have happened since then, but those ones are forgiven. So I feel like Nick White, like, yes, people hate his appearance, but like he can be a decent player, you know. He's a nice guy off the field too, from what I've dealt with. But Dylan Peach, nice tackle there on him, 30 metres out from the line. And the penalty goes the way of the Western Force due to not rolling away against Tyke Byrne, who scored the Lions try. It was Dan Sheehan who managed to score the early try. And while Lions look a little shocked there, couldn't get set on DC studs race, and that can happen in regards of, you know, you put a whole heap of new guys together, and yes, you could say there are a lot of Irish internationals in this lineup, but still trying to partner with the English players, the Welsh players, the Scottish guys, it does take that little bit more time. We have got the Kiwi Rob, but not his mustache for overratedness. Is Pollock playing? How did you rate his first Lions game? It's one that he probably will want to forget. To be honest, he had a couple really unfortunate errors, I will say, but he's a young guy with a lot of confidence, so I'd like to think he'll bounce back. He's playing slightly out of position in 8 for this matchup, but it's not a terrible reshuffle from Andy Farrell. He has got the work rate to be able to go. And their number 8 jersey, nice short ball from Donaldson, broken line, Dylan Peach up the middle, ball on the inside and 10 metres out from the line. The Western Force are yet again on attack. This has been a good start to the match from a side that was $16 underdogs. Oh, that looked like a knock-on from Nick White. I'm not sure what happened there in the breakdown, but it is play on just for now. White again goes off to the left-hand side, finds Hoskins. 10 metres from the line, no advantage. That is against Tyke Byrne. He was told not to go over the top. He said, but I can do this, and then does end up penalised. They'll go back for the 3 points, or do they go for the 7? We have got there a bit of trivia. Do you know there's a movement to make Western Australia a separate country called Westralia? I know at one point they were trying to separate from the rest of Aussie, and I don't think it went very well, did it? I'm going to the game today for the Springboks, says Mohadeen. Oh, and the decision does seem like Ben Donaldson and the Western Force, they are going to be kicking this one towards the corner. Commentators are saying it's a great call. Yep, it has gone out just inside of the field of play, so 5 metres out from the line, and it will be the line out here for the Western Force. Who's the ref? It is Ben O'Keefe in charge of this one. Are they near Lions line? They certainly are, 5 metres out. And the Lions, they have had to scramble quite a bit here throughout the early stages of the match, more so than I think they were first anticipating. Nicely taken in terms of that line out by Sam Carter, rolling ball here. Brandon Poyanga Morsa starting to go towards that sideline, being told to get it out of there. Joe McCarthy through the side gives away the penalty again. I think the ball's still in the field of play. Yes, it is. So a very handy advantage here for the Western Force. Big shot coming in from Gary Ringrose. And they'll go back to 5 metres penalty out from the line. I think AB's 13 plus in each game versus France. I don't think so. I think it will be a little bit closer than some are anticipating. Our Lions boards will lay offside all night. It's a tradition for them, says Honor. And penalty try. I don't think we're quite at a penalty try yet, but if they end up dragging it down this close to the line, there is danger. Oh, 6 blue going off for an HIA. That is Will Harris, and that is a massive shame because I was hoping to see quite a bit of that man throughout the game, seeing as he was one of my keys for the Western Force. I'm in the UK. It's crazy to me there is no BBC radio coverage of these matches. I honestly can't believe it. I thought the biggest thing for the British and Irish Lions tour, I could be wrong, but I thought it was about trying to get as many eyes on it as possible and as many ears listening to it. But to not have a free-to-air option in the UK just seems like that they're going in the wrong direction. It's a Lions tour. It's every 4 years. Yes, they want to make money, but I don't think there's too many people who are signing up for a subscription just to watch the Lions tour. It sounds harsh, but I think that, if it was a separate thing or there just has to be free-to-air options. Definitely for these warm-up games. Maybe charge for the test matches up against Australia, but, that was offside from Tyburn, possibly lucky. That one didn't get called. Nick White goes back across now to the hands of Tom Robertson. Off to the left-hand side again. Western Force putting on the pressure early. Carter tackled on, another advantage. This time it's 12 red offside. That's Sione. Tui Piloto, inside ball from Nick White. Goes across now with the cross kick. Wow, that's in the stands almost. That's how far that one went. And another penalty and a double blow of the whistle now. It's only available through Sky or Now TV. But yeah, there's absolutely nothing free to view, says David. And Howdy Hamish says, Peter, welcome in. Right, too many defensive penalties. The discipline needs to be better, or it will be a yellow card, is the gist of what Ben O'Keefe has just said. Yeah, it's very disappointing. I'd have to buy Sky Sports for a month to watch it. I'll do for the matches next weekend, though, when the All Blacks start their series against France. And yeah, that will be a very busy month of international rugby. Oh, Nick White thought about taking the quick tap, but then does decide against it. Currently sitting 11 minutes into this contest, 7 points to 7, and this time, Western Force, they will go for this near side of the field with their line out rather than the far side. And hey, Kiwi lads, 20-minute red cards in the store. The All Blacks tests? I think so. I could be wrong, though, because I know that World Rugby did say, yeah, we'll have to do them, but I'm not sure whether or not that was great work from Joe McCarthy there in the rolling ball. We'll come back to that in a second, but he's managed to get the turnover for the British and Irish Lions. So that is now 3 times that the Western Force have gone to the line out, and all 3 times they have been shut down. Who scored the tries for the Western Force? We saw the try from Nick White. From the British and Irish Lions, it was the try for Dan Sheehan, the skipper, and that number 2 jersey. Yes, you're bang on, mate. At the very least, the warm-up should be free. Well, because that's the thing. They had a free option, I believe, for the Argentinian game, which I think is great, and it seemed like it was relatively successful, seeing as it was such a close game. But, even if it wasn't every warm-up game that they had free, maybe the occasional one you had to pay, for your subscription. But, just a simple broadcast of free-to-air for a couple of the Aussie games or something like that would make a massive difference, I think, in terms of the amount of interest for the tour. Nick White, ball available here again, sitting 20 metres out from the line. The Force have had all the attack throughout the last 10 or so minutes, ever since that early try from Dan Sheehan. They've also given away about 4 penalties. Now, Ekuasi pumps his legs, tackled by Scott Cummings. Henry Pollock has to get out of that breakdown too. Short ball, nicely done by the Western Force, linking up quite nicely. And I guess that is one bonus, that they have cohesion. How do you think one of the worst URC teams would go against the Lions team? I think they'd get probably beaten relatively badly. I don't want to badmouth any of the lower ranked URC teams, but the likes of the Dragons, they've had a very up and down kind of season. I think they'd struggle against most teams to be honest, based off form, just because even in their close games, they couldn't really secure the deal. Force should just kick the 3 next minute or next time. Yeah, I think that as much as they'd like to just take the points that are available, I believe their main goal was just to try and just stack the points up, which hasn't worked at this point. They've only got the 1. And Force versus British and Irish Lions, says Luke. And knock on from Henry Pollock, the youngster. He's had a dream run into this British and Irish Lions team, as well as England, for what he's been able to do over the last 12 months, although his tour has started as a nightmare. Nice run down the wing there, trying to beat James Lowe for pace, almost bursted into touch. Nice offload from Donaldson to keep the ball alive again. Force are really doing well in terms of their offloading, when to get rid of it and when not to. Darcy Swain hits it up. Now Nick White back across Stewart, goes to Ekuasi. That was the wrong time to offload. He's giving it straight to Tui Pelotu. The British and Irish Lions, their first touch of the ball in what feels like forever. It's a great kick from Elliot Daly. One of the 50-22. Ball will not quite curve enough though. And now, kicking it into touch, Alex Harford doesn't find touch. In fact, it has stayed in the field of play. There are players absolutely everywhere. James Lowe thought about the kick, tries to step, gets caught by a prop. Now little grubber in behind from the Lions. Cleaned up by Josh Van den Flair. Or at least chased by Van den Flair. The Force have got this ball now 10 metres out from their line. Others like Zebra versus the Lions are very charitable to the Dragons, saying there was some ups this season, says Suds Rays. Yeah, there weren't many, to be fair, but they had their moments, slightly, kind of. Now Nick White, ready to go for this box kick again. They're only 5 metres out from their own line. Really good kick in terms of distance from Nick White, but it will be about 30 metres out from the line now. The British and Irish Lions with the line out attacking option. How's the weather over there, Hamish? It's chilly in Johannesburg. We're sitting 8 degrees Celsius, which is actually pretty warm for us at this time of the year. Possession 72% for the Western Force at the moment in the early stages of this matchup. This game in the first 3 minutes felt like a completely different contest. When we saw the Force defending just out from their line. Miscommunication there between Williams and also Sheehan, but it has gone backwards. Ball back in possession of the Lions now. Tyke Verlong tackled low by his opposite number, Hoskins. Actually got the offload away to Burn there. Already 15 minutes through this contest. Henry Pollock, short ball. Another offload. Van den Flair finds Pollock. Bit of space, the youngster to run through. Breaks through one tackle. Finds the offload to Thomas Williams. Well done. Because Finn Russell, he wanted that pass, but he would have been in front. And that is well done. The assist now goes to Henry Pollock, but the try goes to Thomas Williams. He's used to wearing red in terms of the international game. Plays for Wales, one of the few members of the Welsh squad that made it into this British and Irish Lions side. Henry Pollock with a short ball to Josh Van den Flair, who managed to find the offload away. And Pollock, he was going to back himself all the way. Nick White just falling over that breakdown, left the gap for Williams to go through. And the British and Irish Lions, they take the lead now in this contest. Remember back when the Lions proposed a game with Samoa in their prime, imagined a game with them. Samoa lost in a physical game versus All Blacks in 2015. Says Mark. And we have got there, the Argentinian game was free to wear here, and Ireland and Wales, says Holdry. And also we have got there the box by 25 for their game later on. Of course, they are going to be going head-to-head with the Barbarians. We will be covering that game on the channel as well, ladies and gents, so be sure to stick around for that. We've got an hour build-up plan where we will be looking through all the stats throughout the URC season, as well as the key players to watch out for this season. But I do think Thomas Williams in that number 9 jersey could be quite the key for this Lions team, the way that he has started on the tour. You think Thomas Williams could be a breakout star this tour? I actually think he could be, just from, don't get me wrong, Mitchell had a couple good moments in that first match up against Argentina, but the whole Lions side seemed to change in terms of composure when he made his way off the bench. Knock on there from the Western Force. An era that they definitely wouldn't have wanted just after managing to get themselves almost a kickoff. Looks like a bit of an injury here for Darcy Swain. Got some heavy strapping on those knees. We really have to wait until 2029 for New Zealand to play the Lions. We certainly do. You know what they say, all good things take time. And there's probably many other sayings about time and waiting and whatnot. Territory, 69% possession, 68 at the moment for the British and Irish Lions. They have had only the 31 and 32% in those two respective statistics. Tackle completion rate sitting at 76 for both of these sides, and 4 penalties conceded against the Lions, not a single one against the Force as of yet. The banks and the broadcasters in Ireland have ruined everything. Everyone gets free tickets except the supporters, says David. And that's definitely not the way it should be. Like, even when you think about it, a free-to-air broadcast showing ads, like not during the match, of course, but during the halftime break, before the game, after the game, like surely that's better than not making money off people, like not paying for a subscription. Thomas was brilliant for Gloucester during the English Premiership season, so I think he will do amazingly well, says David. And also rough start for Harford. He hasn't really found his feet as of yet in that number 10 jersey. But there's still time. And to be fair, he didn't play a huge amount at 10 throughout the season, as they did have Ben Donaldson a majority of the time for the Force. Nice take there from Joe McCarthy. And in fact, that will be the first penalty against the Force. That is for offside. And I got to watch the Argentina game on a Welsh language site on YouTube. Says personalised knives. And yeah, that's the perfect way of doing it. If someone is in a country that doesn't have a broadcaster, or even if they have a broadcaster but it is a massively expensive one, I think it's the exclusive rights that get technical and kind of cause problems. But yeah, I'm still of the mindset that if there is a country where people want to watch rugby and they don't have a broadcaster, like for a paid subscription, they should be able to watch it for free, whether that's on Rugby Pass or whether that's on some random legal site. Any chance you want to turn the camera around so we can see some of the match? If I show any seconds of the match, I will get copyright struck, banned for 3 months, potentially sued for copyright infringement. So it would lead to a long holiday for myself, unfortunately, but it would be unpaid and I'd have nothing to do. But Finn Russell, nice offloading there, linking up with Cummings' Scottish teammate now, Sione Tuipulotu. Close to the sideline, but keeps the ball alive. 22 metres out from the line. Thomas Williams back across to Russell. Furlong. Mac Hansen. Long way off his wing too. And now it seems like the Lions are starting to find their rhythm. They just needed that little bit of possession. Nick White rushing up in defence. It will be knocked on by Sheehan, who I don't think got many hands to it at all. And we have got there the Lions have only beaten the AB 7 times out of the 41 times, or 41 tests. Says Godzone there, and Pollock, Fundenflare, and some backs are actually liking or linking together, encouraging signs, says Mike. And that is what these games are about for the British and Irish Lions, finding those combinations that are going to win you those international matches up against the Aussies. Because if yes, now you're in that important stage. Yeah, of course you want to win these games, but if you were going to lose one of these matches to work out the combo to clean sweep the series, then, it would be a pretty handy kind of learning, I guess you could say. You use a mirror behind you, then you are not broadcasting the content directly. YouTube, unfortunately, clocked on to that about 4 years ago in terms of the mirror technique. You'll notice even the ones who use mirrors get taken down. It's the sunglasses all over again. People say, just wear glasses, and they won't suspect anything. They do. They are onto it. Ikawasi now sitting 50 metres out from the line. Nick White, back across to the right-hand side here for the Force. They are inside of their own half, but working their way towards the halfway line. So dumb only Sky is showing the match. I agree. I feel like there should be many free options to be able to watch. Definitely in the UK. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a side that is made up of some of the UK's best players, but you can only watch them if it's paid. It seems really weird. Great commentary, first time I'm on this. Normally watch it on telly, but stuck at work, not fun. Says Jean there. Well, hopefully it does go quick for you. Are you going to be at home before the end of the match, or are you going to be stuck for the whole time? Oh, that was almost a massive 50-22 for James Lowe, but it is just killed inside the in-goal area, which is going to bring them back a good probably 60 metres or so. We have there Ireland, not in the UK. Says Matt, that is true. But that one right in the in-goal area for James Lowe. And we have good there. I remember a video of someone pretending to play a UFC game, but it was the real thing, says the Sporting Kiwi. And who's doing the kicking game for Springboks today? So I assume off the kicking tee, they'll go with Sasha, at least at the start of the game. They also have a couple backup options in there. Just going to miss the Springbok game. Kickoff going to miss the rest. Or sorry, just going to make the Springbok game. And of course, we will be covering that one on the channel as well. And good lad, Matt. Says Belly. And there too. Now, ready to put this ball in. Nick White. Sitting about 35 metres out from the Lions line. That's an ugly scrum. Both front rows standing up. No advantages or anything. I think that one was just that muddled up. Ben O'Keefe said, we'll just get on with it. Now, running forward, Ollie Hoskins. Across to the left-hand side. Tackle made from Josh van den Vlaar. Oh, and once again, Nick White almost having that knock on in the breakdown. A great commentary, but I wonder who can kick it further. James Lowe, Elliot Daly, massive. I'd love to see them both just go head-to-head. I know that James Lowe, from his build, he looks like he'd kick it further than Daly, but Daly's got a deceptive boot and can get a miles. That's going to be a beautiful inside ball, but it goes to Tui Pilotu for the Force, who were only 15 metres out from the Lions line, but now they have conceded possession. Now, Josh van den Vlaar told to use it. Going on the inside to Pierre Schurman. I assume they will set up for a kick here. Hamish, please say hi to my dad, Dave. Shout out to you, Dave. If you are doing well. Apparently, AI will be able to create cartoons from live broadcasts, so if you don't mind, Yogi Bear at centre, says Studs Row. And we have good there. Is it on live TV anywhere? Not Sky, like anywhere in the world, says Katrina. Someone said that it was available in Ireland, but then someone else said it wasn't available in Ireland. I haven't heard anything about whether or not Wales have it yet, though. S4C, I think, is their option. Options to view are all out there, including for the cheapskates, says Eric. It kind of feels like the Lions are struggling with this Force team. Well, it's a different style of opposition, isn't it? It will take a little bit for them to be able to adjust. Oh, another drop ball there from the Western Force, whose handling errors are starting to creep in a little bit more. Only on Sky in Ireland, says Patrick. And let's go, Hamish, says Mikhail. And there's a shout out for, is it the Hibs? I know that YouTube have changed their comments and now everyone's an @ with their name rather than being the original username. So I don't know what happens to usernames now. I guess that's just your channel name. What about watching the games on replay after the event? They do still copyright strike those. Because there was a little while ago, I think this was like 2 or 3 years, where someone was uploading full international matches after they happened and their channel disappeared. Unfortunately, is there a good crowd? Very decent for Optus Stadium. I'm not sure of the exact capacity of this stadium, but I'd say they've got at least, I want to say 30,000, but I could be wrong. Time in New Zealand is nearly 10:30. That is correct, yeah. And the match between the Barbarians and the Springboks, that has taken place at 3:05 a.m. New Zealand time, but we are going to be covering it on the Channel 2. Henry Pollock goes off to the right-hand side, finds Finn Russell. Every pass he does looks flat, but I think it's just the angle at Optus. Now chipped in behind by Matt Hansen, trying to clean it up, was Ringrose, but just drops that ball and points at Hamish Stewart, saying that it was a knock-on from the Western Force. Our capacity is 61,000. Oh, so a lot more than I thought. So they've probably got even more than 30,000 in this one then. And who do you think will win? I do think that the British and Irish Lions should, but to be fair, like the Western Force have probably been a lot more competitive than some thought heading into this match. We're currently 27 minutes in and it's 14 points to 7. Matt Hansen getting a little bit of treatment here. I know there's another man who likes to wear a headgear every once in a while who would love that number 14 spot if it becomes available. Did miss out on the initial squad naming, and some felt maybe he shouldn't have. That was almost like a who am I situation. Let's see if anyone knows who I'm talking about. Better than being sponsored by Amstrad, says Eric. And who's stand out at this stage for the Lions? Thomas Williams, I think, has looked really solid in that number 9 jersey. It's good to see Van den Vlaar back as well into a British and Irish Lions kit. That's almost stolen at the scrum time, but now possession for Matt Proctor. trying to think who else we've seen a decent amount of. And a couple of the forwards. I mean, Henry Pollock got himself that try assist, but also had that handling error earlier on. Dan Sheehan's looked solid as well. Elliot Daly now running this one forward, goes off to Mac Hansen. Did Mac Hansen play for an Aussie club side? I'm not sure of where he initially was, whether or not it was Brumbies or not, but I know that he was, of course, at Connacht. That's going to be nicely taken by the Force. Oh, James Lowe having a bit of a limp, and Dan Sheehan tripped by the ref, was it? It was a bit of a weird play for a couple Irishmen. But now, ball is there. James Lowe, I'm watching him very closely because I feel like he may have tweaked something when he was chasing after that one. I'm listening to the commentary in Scotland through my hearing aids. There's always a plan. Says Franco there. Now kick downfield from Matt Proctor this time down to the 22 of the Lions. Finn Russell all the time in the world will look to create the angle. Gets it into touch. Will be about 45 metres out from the Lions line. The Force have the throw. 45,000 is expected this year. Says Alfred. Or Alfaredi it might actually be, sorry. Yeah, these new @ symbols are confusing me a little bit in terms of what people's names are and where they're cut off because they all come through as one. And Rugby 25 missed opportunity to not include the British and Irish Lions. They probably didn't have the funding, I would say, to be able to get them alongside, although they do have, of course, the fan hub. That's going to be a drag down on Mac Hansen. Knock on there from the Lions. Go back for another forced scrum. Looks like maybe Proctor may have taken a bit of a shot to the rib cage here. He is in a ball. We're going to see the replay here. It wasn't the Ikawasi. Oh, yeah, Ringrose. He can be a brutal individual, ladies and gents. He puts in some massive hits for the size of him, and he just knows where to hit you to make you crumble. Hansen was Brumbies. He supported them when over the Lions 12 years ago. Says user there. And also, is that the first kick battle Force won this season? Donaldson's done all right at times, though, to be fair to him. On that Western Force side, he's obviously done enough to make it into the Australian squad, although he is back playing for them in this match. Can anyone say how good this performance is so far from the Western Force? It's a weird one, because I would say they've played better than they did in certain games of Super Rugby, but then they are still down by 7. So I would say that this has actually been a bit of an improvement compared to, I mean, their game up against the Waratahs was very close. Game before that up against the Fijian Drua, not really. So I would say this is much better performance than the game up against the Drua. Maybe on par with that Tars one, but it's just hard to tell due to different opposition. As British and Irish Lions playing the Crusaders, they are not. No, they will be taking on the Reds. They will be taking on the Brumbies, the Waratahs. They are playing the Australia and New Zealand Invitational XV, the First Nations and Pacifica XV, and then also the 3 matches up against the Aussies for their 3 big matches. I think that Seb Carter, they're going to keep him out there for now. Looks like Matt Proctor also does want to continue in this matchup. The next game, of course, taking place in only around 4 days' time. That will be the Reds taking on the British and Irish Lions. We will be covering that midweek game on the channel too. Yes, Ringrose is highly regarded over in the UK. And yeah, he just puts in really good shots. And like I said, he knows where to hit you to make either the ball pop out or your rib pop out. But now, it's going to be a scrum here. 40 metres out from their own line, the Western Force with the feed. Do we know who is in the AU NZ team? Not yet. But hopefully in the next kind of week or two after the Barbarians have played up against South Africa, I feel like that will impact it a little bit because a couple of those guys might make their way in. And go New Zealand Māori, says Slow Mo. And your predictions for top 14 final? I think Bordeaux have a decent chance. Like, I know that Toulouse are expected because of their record in finals to be able to get the job done, but Bordeaux looks so strong all throughout this year. Oh, that was an ugly low chop on Ben Donaldson's knee. I don't know how legal that one was, but Donaldson has stayed down. I think that was Ringrose, unfortunately. Now, kicking downfield, Harford. It's straight to James Lowe, who, of course, has that long boot and sends it down towards the 22. Well watched at the back from Ben Donaldson. And up the lines, says Owing. Now, loose ball. Nicely taken by Mac Hansen. Tries to sneak through. Sitting 45 metres out from their own line. We are 32 minutes through this first match. Nick White rushing up in defence and shutting it down. The Lions still looking like they're lacking a little bit of cohesion at times here, but it seems to be when certain players link up, such as Josh Van Flair and Henry Pollock, they are already on the same page. Now Williams back across there finds Pierre Scorman. We have got there, Hamish, I've lost one IQ point, but not because of you. Says cool story there. And when it's the Lions test versus the Wallabies, says Ed Smith. We will go like that. There we go. So this is actually in the UK time as well. Oh, big shot on Mac Hansen by Dylan Peach, who forces the error. I think that was played on the ground by Nick White. He's probably got away with that one quite nicely. But now big Will Harris making his way through, goes for the chip and chase and has fallen down. 50-22 attempt is on play though. Henry Pollock gets back 10 metres out from his line. Looks to pass to James Lowe, was over his head now trying to run it out from his in-goal area. Does just that, creates the space and gets the kick downfield. There was a hectic few moments there for both sides, but the ball has not gone out. Nick White fires it back across to Donaldson round the halfway line. In fact, this time it's Alex Harford. Now to the right, Matt Proctor can't quite get through. Nick White trying to milk the penalty. That one wasn't going to work for him, unfortunately. Now big break of the line again by, I believe that time it was Nick Champion to Chris Pigney. Now across to Dylan Peach. Matt Proctor also played for the All Blacks. Says the Sporting Kiwi there. The top 14 final is tomorrow morning at 7:05am, and Lower's magnificent. Says Law now down the wing. Sione Tuipilotu kicking it in behind. Oh, that's dirty from Tom Robertson. Give that man a yellow card, because that looked like a foot trip every day of the week. I think they have to check that. That was filthy from Tom Robertson, if that was what I think it was. Oh, they're going to check it. If they check it, he's gone. That looked like Henry Pollock was running through, and it looked like in the end Tom Robertson just said no. Okay, I think it was accidental, but boy, it has to be, because that was... Oh, they're saying it just looks accidental, like it was a rugby incident. They've cleared the foul play. It's one that if, it goes the wrong way, he's definitely off the field. We have got there definitely a trip, hilariously outrageous, says Mike there, but down towards the halfway line, off the goal line, drop out now. Henry Pollock runs straight at Tom Robertson. Makes him face to face rather than foot on foot. Now, Tyke Byrne sitting 35 metres out from the line. The Lions would love nothing more than to get a try right at the end of this first half. Pick and go from McCarthy. Dropped hard by Nick Champion to Chris Pigney. That was bad from Sam Carter. Mistiming it and just crunches down on Thomas Williams. That will be the penalty going the way of the Lions, who could take the 3. And perhaps that would be not a terrible way to look at this game. Oh, okay. Sam Carter's just been told by Ben O'Keefe, you've actually done that a few times so far in this game. Get it right. Oh, quick tap taken by Finn Russell. Saw the space, decided to go himself, and he's 5 metres out. Offloads it up to Daly, and they score the try. I think they'll check it now. There's a bit of push and shove. There's a scrap taking place on the ground. Henry Pollock, of course, is in the middle of it. And there's a stack of about 10 players on top of each other. Let 7 and 8 come up, says Ben O'Keefe. Darcy Swain in the middle of it as well. That would be expected. The man loves a bit of biff. Our morning Irish 5am here. Is the game good? It's been all right so far, to be fair, but we're going to see the quick tap there by Finn Russell, completely catching the Western Force off guard. And then a good low tackle initially popped up, and Ben Donaldson trying his absolute best to get underneath him. I think we're just waiting to see the grounding. How good has Dylan Peach been? Holy moly, he's been a standout for the Force. Ben Donaldson, yeah, that looks like a grounding from that angle, but that is a sneaky one. Why do you have Mr. White on the thumbnail? Because he is playing in this game, so that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, a little bit of push and shove afterwards. Henry Pollock underneath about 3 Western Force players. Is it a big crowd? About 45,000 expected, someone said earlier on. Okay, Ben O'Keefe, I think the TMO was saying, do we want to have a look at anything to do with 7 and 8? And Ben O'Keefe said, I've controlled it for now, let's just get on with it, but we'll keep an eye on them. Now Finn Russell off the sneaky tap. Force 9th. Says slow-mo there. They just called Finn Russell a kid in the commentary. They said that it could be this kid's tour. Now that kick has gone over, making the score 21 points to 7. Currently sitting 3 from 3. It's called Welcome to Northern Hemisphere Rugby. I didn't know that was a tactic used much in the North. I mean, we've covered a lot of games on the channel of the Northern Hemisphere comp. Super Rugby, not Super Rugby, Six Nations, URC, Premiership, Top 14. You don't often see the quick tap like that. That was 7 style right there, and it was effective for the British and Irish Lions. Now Nick White going for the short kickoff. Dylan Peach claims it and manages to get the ball back for the Force. They are currently down by 14, but they are not down and out yet. Hamish Stewart tries the step. Lined up by McCarthy, they'll go back for the penalty. If the Looks lose this, says Robert, or the Lions, sorry, from Robert T, who scored the last try, missed it. So the last try was scored by Elliot Daly off the quick tap of Finn Russell after they won the penalty. I bet Nick White started it, says Albert. I don't actually think he was involved. It was actually Nick Champion to Chris Pigney who was involved alongside Henry Pollock. I can't log into my stupid app, pay for it, and takes 3 hours to go live, says James Gill. And people forget they were welcomed by Argentina last week, says Gatsy. Well, they did have their game up against Argentina, of course. Although, first game in Australia for this one. Full strength for the Lions too, which I think is probably where the couple mistakes that they were making last week, they've already corrected them, which has been quite good to see. 5 penalties against the Lions, though. Their discipline been a little bit lacking at times in the early stages, but they've come right throughout the last kind of 10 to 15. Now, Brandon Paianga-Mosa ready to throw this ball in. It's claimed in the middle of the line out. Now looping around, Brandon Paianga-Mosa, not the best ball to Hamish Stewart, who doesn't take it cleanly. Mac Hansen in retreating mode as he's tackled by Dylan Peach. And coming the Force. And Japan 15s a 20 and Māori 43. Oh, yeah, so Māori All Blacks definitely ramping it up in that second half. Poor Western Force. Will they ever be decent? Says Just Poker. And is Israel Folau going to feature in the Pacifica team or the Invitational team? No idea, to be honest. That one's going to go into Dutch. Western Force decide against the quick throw. Just the 90 seconds left of the half. A lot more tackles this time for the Lions. Only made a total of 100 against Argentina so far. More than half that. Yeah, like, this is definitely going to be a bit more of a draining one of the gas tank, I would say, with the pace that the Western Force are also playing at. They want to go all out. They want to get tries. They want to avoid those 3-pointers if possible. Now, Paianga-Mosa nicely taking Nick White, running through the gap. Short ball to Dylan Pichu again, just looking to bulldoze over the top of Thomas Williams. Now, back across to the hands of the experienced veteran Sam Carter, Henry Pollock, and Darcy Swain, of course. Still having a bit of a scrap. Swain's had his jersey ripped a bit by the youngster Pollock. As long as he doesn't do what he did to Quintupai, we'll be all right. Now, Nick White. Oh, up a little bit early there for the British and Irish Lions. Ekuasi going to find his way through. Across to the left-hand side, Robertson. 30 seconds remaining in this first half. Passes it across to Hamish Stewart. 2-man tackle on him. Pick and go from Ollie Hoskins. Tackle by Pollock again. Looking for the turnover. Gives away the penalty advantage. Tyke Byrne just says, no, we'll take that ball. He's taken down by Hamish Stewart. And we'll go back for another penalty. We got a new member. Just Poker, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Let's not forget this is 4 countries against 1 state. A big Lions win should be expected. I mean, the British and Irish Lions, they came in as massive favourites. Oh, Henry Pollock sent to the bin for 10 minutes for cynical play. That is an unfortunate one for the youngster. He has been sent as marching orders by Ben O'Keefe. And also we have got the, you think Dan is better as captain instead of Mario. says, destroying dumb people. I mean, Dan Sheehan scored a try straight away, so it's probably hard to judge. Definitely because, a much slower start in their last game. Like, Mauro, I think he'll be able to do the job in that skipper role. Of course, without Alan Wynne-Jones, who had been such a pivotal member of the Lions for so long, it will be a bit different no matter who's in that Lions captaincy, but now rolling Maul here for the Western Force. Rough call, I thought, says Studs Ray's now rolling a little bit closer. They've been told to get out of it there. The Lions, that ball was through, well spotted by Josh Van den Flair, who's got right through the middle, tried to shut it down as he held it up. If he has, it will be half time. They're going to check this. And we have got there, at least Pollock is trying. He is. He's been busy, He dropped the ball early. He then got the try assist. He then ended up in a scuffle after the try was scored for the Lions. That one was held up, though. Josh Van den Flair doing extremely well, while the rest of his teammates were still in that rolling maul. He had gone back round, joined legally, and managed to shut it down before the Force got themselves another. We have got there both teams are suspended at the TAB, says Kiwi Rob. I would say that's because the Force were only a couple metres out from the line. What did Pollock do? No clear release when when the Western Force, they managed to get a line break and they were just trying to play it quickly, and Pollock, no release. He'd actually, at first glance, I thought he had done enough to get the penalty, but I think it was also because one of his teammates hadn't rolled either. So he just went into the wrong breakdown and wouldn't let go of the ball. And British and Irish Lions lose many warm-up and midweek games if you look at previous tours. Players don't want to get injured or give the game plan away. Says Albert there. Pollock did nothing. The ref is a cheat, lol. And also we have got there as the Barbers and the Lions going to face each other. Sadly not, but you could say in some regards, with who the Barbarians have selected, the upcoming game between the Invitational Australia and New Zealand side could be quite similar to a Barbarians-esque team, as well as that First Nations and Pacifica XV. We could see quite a few of the Barbars in that side, so they won't play the direct Barbarians, but kind of close to facing a Barbars-like side. But first half already down and dusted, ladies and gents. The British and Irish Lions, they are leading. Elliot Daly scoring one of the tries, Dan Sheehan getting another, and then the other try scored by Thomas Williams, I think it was, who ended up in that support run. And then for the Western Force, they have just got the one try, although they did score it relatively early, and they were persisting. That first kind of 5 to 15 minute period, they had all the possession, but only getting the one, that being for Nick White. We have got there, Pollock looked at the ref in a funny sort of way, says Eric. Pollock is a young guy, but his speed is a genuine threat, says Mike. And like you said, he's young, so he's still got a lot of learning to do. But in the right environment with the right coaches, he will be a very dangerous player, if, he already is, of course. But he's still got a little bit to learn. And I think, like I said, the right guidance, he can be an absolute world beater. Pollock really is not good enough. He will get bullied by Fraser McRyan in Australia's back row. I'll say it again, Jack Willis. I should have been selected ahead of him, says Dem in the 11th. Although Jack Willis, I thought, wasn't available at the time of selection due to his commitments to the top 14. I know that he played for the England XB, though. So I think now, if there were any injuries, he would get to go in. Nearest I'm going to get to watching the match, says Alicia in there. And yeah, sadly, like we've found out all throughout the stream, there are not many free-to-air options for this one, unfortunately. Western Force are playing, says Aniki there, and Dylan Peach surely needs to be playing for the Wallabies. The performance he's putting on in the first half, what are your thoughts? Absolutely. I think that the one thing that Dylan Peach has been unlucky with, in terms of comparison to some of the other wingers that they've selected in that game, or in that squad, is sadly pace. And he's still quick, Dylan Peach, and he can run over the top of people. But Australia have been quite enticed into picking those guys who have absolutely pure wheels down the wing. But Dylan Peach, defensively as well as on attack, hasn't been too shabby at all throughout this contest. And, if anyone was injured in that Australian squad, I'd stick him straight in. Of course, relative to his position. I'm not saying if there's a prop, then stick Dylan Peach in. Māori boys doing their job nicely it was not too long ago that people were complaining how badly they were playing, but they obviously turned it around big time. 48 points to 20, I think someone said. And the Jet Force are now at $41 underdogs, says Kiwi Rob. And hi, Hamish, I can't name a single player here other than Nick White. Darcy Swain. Unfortunately, some people only know him because of his tackle on Quinn Tupaia. You got Brandon Paanga-Mosa, who's been through quite a few clubs in his history. I'm trying to figure who else you know. Ben Donaldson, announced in the Australian squad. I assume you know some of the British and Irish Lions, though, maybe? And who are the Māoris playing? They are playing the Japan XV. And they are currently sitting, what are they? They're about 79 minutes through that game. So, very close to the end of that one. And Western Force doing bad? I'd say they're doing all right. To be fair, they're just showing Dylan Peach's stats. 70 carry meters throughout this game. 2 line breaks, 9 carries, 2 offloads. But I'd say the Western Force, when you look back at the predictions for what people thought the score was going to be, like we saw an 80-0 after that first Lions try was scored. So, you know, it sounds bad, but anything under 50 points is actually a bit of an improvement from some of the games that the Western Force had throughout their last match. Like, they've done pretty well, I would say, in terms of competitiveness compared to where people ranked them heading into it. Their opening Lions try was slick, very nicely done. Yeah, the 2 Irishmen linking up. I see Leon McDonald in the Western Force environment there. You think the Force can keep it tight? I think that the first 10 minutes of the second half is going to be crucial. Because if the British and Irish Lions score during that period, I think that the Force will be done. But if the Force can stay competitive and maybe sneak a try of their own, you know, you're looking at 7 points down, then all of a sudden, you know, you can just really keep it close. Because this game is being played at a fast tempo. The Force, they've had a bit of time off since Super Rugby Pacific, but, you know, that gas tank may still be there. They would have been preparing for this game, ready for it. I missed from the 14-point who scored the try for the Lions. So tries scored for the Lions so far have been Elliot Daly, Thomas Williams, and Dan Sheehan. So 3 different nations. We just need a Scotsman to score for the British and Irish Lions. And then the try for the Australians was scored by Nick White. A full-time 53-20. Also, they got one more try at the end of that game. And the Lions B team has enough to see off the opposition, says James Shipwood. Exactly right. Like, they've got, honestly, more than enough capabilities. And a few of these guys, I believe, will be in that starting lineup up against the Australians for this British and Irish Lions team. One combination that I've been quite pleasantly surprised by was actually at times that Van den Flower and Pollock combo of 7 and 9. Yes, Pollock ended up getting himself sent to the bin at the end of the half, but, you know, that link up where they set up the try of Thomas Williams seemed like 2 guys that were on the complete same page, which I think would be pretty impressive if they can build upon that, although they do, of course, have some pretty handy options, not just in terms of the starting lineup that they could go with, but the guys off the bench too. Jack Conan, man at number 20 in this game. They still have Ollie Chisholm to come. No Maro Itoje for this match. Marcus Smith, he'll have something to prove after the way that he played in the last match. He had some very shaky moments, but looks like they're just about ready to make their way back out onto the field. Do let me know, ladies and gents, though. Who do you think is going to score the first try of the second half? The exact player, now it might be one of these guys who are sitting here waiting for their opportunity, or perhaps someone in the starting lineup that you think might have a crack. But anyone who is new, of course, also be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on the live stream. It is greatly appreciated you all being here for this matchup. We've got plenty more coming in the future. Like I said, we've got that next match between the Reds and the British and Irish Lions that is going to be happening around 4 days, I believe it is. Would the Blues be winning versus Lions? Very hard to tell, because the Blues had a bit of an up and down season. They had some really good games and they had some pretty poor ones. But maybe they'll be doing all right in this contest. We have to wait 4 years to be able to find out. Māori All Blacks 1, CSB Keeper, and the test games are being shown free to view on S4C and TG4. Up here, CSB. So the tests are, but not the the warm-up games fleshing. I assume that is. And Dylan Peach to score first. Honestly does deserve it with the way that he has been playing. Watching from Bali, says Ollie. And up the 4, says Beekeeper. And there as well. And greetings from Edinburgh Rugby fans, says Johnny. And Western Force doing what they need to, not letting us down so far. Lions look very skittish. Could be that coaching style, time is ticking. And I do think that as the half progressed, they did seem to find a little bit more cohesion. The Lions, like that first try, looked like everyone was going to be just well and truly doing well. But then that next 10 minutes happened and it just seemed like they were a bit lost defensively. Definitely when the Lions did concede that try. We have there a Scottish player, says McCall, for who's going to be able to score first. And the tempo is seriously quick. Do you think we could see a few more scrums and rolling mauls, maybe even a 5-metre line out, catch and drive try? I think that both sides, it seems to be no matter what, want to go for sevens. And I don't see that changing too much. I would say the next side to take a 3 would be the British and Irish Lions out of them both, just because, of course, that would give them that little bit more of a lead. But I wouldn't put it past them to kick it for the corner and try and absolutely just drive their way over. Josh Fannin Dealer, first try, says Mike. Drop goals, I don't see any in this game happening. Unless we're like right down to the wire and it's 21-21, perhaps then we'd see one of these two sides opt to go for it. But, I mean, we have 13 line breaks throughout that first half. So, if the ball is available to run, I think these two sides are going to run it. Which is great news for us. That man is dressed like Winnie the Pooh. I did hear a story during the week about 2 bears that got out and ate a whole heap of honey. Perhaps he was one of them. Come on the Lions, there's Rugby. And let's go, Kia. And also we have there Kia Kaha Kai for Kai Kata France, of course, going to be fighting the UFC tomorrow. Kiwi lads, my Australian back row to play the Lions would be 9 Tate, 10 Noah, 11 Dylan, Ikatal, Joseph, Andrew Callaway, and Tom Wright. Doesn't sound too bad. So I assume you're promoting Dylan Peach into the side or hoping there's an injury so that he can make his way in. James O'Connor, I'm missing this team, says Beekeeper. Yeah, I do see that James O'Connor going to Leicester Tigers for next season. And I mean MMA, says Godzone and there as well for the UFC flyweight title. Yeah, he is fighting in the UFC. Bears eat honey, apparently. Well, these 2 bears that got out just ended up in the right place, right time, if they do like a bit of honey. But surely the cartoon has some sort of logic behind it, right? Now, they also like porridge, according to another one, but only if it's the temperature of just right. Yes, he actually played in a game when Australia beat England last year, and he was great in that game. So he's Devon the 11th. But we are just seeing the halftime interviews, which does mean we are very close to the second half getting underway. Anyone who hasn't already, be sure to get those score predictions in. Of course, some brilliant matches of international rugby coming up in the near future. We are going to be covering quite a few of them on the channel. The Reds versus British and Irish Lions. That is the Wednesday night or Wednesday morning / lunchtime for you guys in the UK. New Zealand Māori taking on Scotland. That is the early game on Saturday with the 7:05 kickoff being New Zealand versus France. Waratahs versus British and Irish Lions for the 3rd match of their tour in Australia. And then we have also got South Africa, Italy, Argentina taking on the English, and Australia taking on Fiji, also taking place. So a lot of rugby is pretty much how you describe it. Hey man, missed you a lot, says Quandili. Well, we are back and we are, of course, going to be here for the Box versus Barbars game. We are going to be starting that live stream in 3 hours' time. So we've actually got an hour of build-up. So if there's anything you want to talk about rugby-wise, be sure to be in that chat before the match takes place. Crusaders can't win Super Rugby without James O'Connor. That's my biased take as a Queenslander, says Trilly. And good day, says Rugby there. Please shout me out. My name is Byron. I'm watching on my dad's phone, so shout out to you, Byron. What is your prediction on the Box Barbars? I actually really will struggle to pick. Like, I think South Africa should win, but it's whether or not the weather's going to really impact the game. Like, I know that the Box would love a few scrums. That's one thing I'm sure of because they've got a massive front row. Ox Nasham, Malcolm Marks, Nalabakanye, whose name I still haven't quite got to roll off my tongue yet. I think I add one too many syllables. But that man is a big man. He enjoys the scrum. Keen to see a big second half from the Force. Says, just poker. Looking forward to the bar. Says Johnny. What time are you starting next Saturday night for the ABs versus France? Says Kiwi Rob. I have no idea yet. I normally just pick it at the time. If we've got heaps to talk about and I've found a few stats, we'll start earlier. If I haven't, then probably 30 minutes. And Thomas Williams for the next try. It could happen. He's been very handy throughout this matchup already, and also off the bench last week did look the part too. And we have got at Kiwi Lads. Says Manu, which I assume means that I missed a message, did I? No. Okay, it might have been cut off a little bit early. Are you calling the box barbars? I am not. The barbarians I have called barbars, which I think makes sense, doesn't it? And says Senor Vamos Los Pumas, says Mikhail. And I love your video, says Ollie. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. And yeah, looking forward to the barbars, says Johnny. And there too, is it true that New Zealand and Aussie are training to play a game of NFL against each other? Not that I know of, but it could happen, to be fair. The Abdominals versus France, says Eric. And does Klabakanye still play? I can't seem to find his overpowering presence. Oh, the second half started and we were still getting ads. Right, we're 7 seconds into the second half. The British and Irish Lions are on their own goal line. That was poorly done by the broadcasters. They were still showing us ads of food while we were back under the action. But 8.5 minutes remaining of the Henry Pollock yellow card. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant, am I calling them that for the name? But yeah, we are doing that live stream for the match. We have got an hour build-up for that contest as well, so be sure to pop in. Now, nice step coming in there from the Western Force. Do you know if you are doing Monday's Baby Blacks versus Italy at 6:30? I haven't actually decided on that one yet. I think I'm going to be doing the South Africa versus Aussie one, I think is 1:30 a.m. So I think I'll be covering that one on the channel box by 25. What about France versus a New Zealand game prediction, says Mike. We have got our lineup predictions that will be coming out throughout the week, as well as probably a preview before that matchup. Now, ball's still there for the Force. Off to the left-hand side, Ben Donaldson. A tackle made on him by Thomas Williams. Been performing at a high level throughout this match so far. Tom Robertson. Low tack on him by Tyke Byrne. Pick and go from Sione Tuipulotu. In fact, no, sorry, it was Ekuwasi. Got my teams around the wrong way there and there was a knock on. So we'll go back for the Force scrum. Who's performing the best out there? I think Thomas Williams. I don't think there's too many other guys who have had a better half than him. Finn Russell's looked pretty solid in that number 10 jersey, to be fair, and it's actually a combination that I'm sure they'll be pretty impressed with. That Williams versus Russell duo. But 38 minutes remaining in this contest. Sounds like Ben Donaldson is actually coming as the 10 option now rather than being on the outside 15 where he was. Lions really struggling to exit their half from kickoff. Says Studs Rays, and it's something that a lot of the other Super Rugby sides will be keeping an eye on, except when scoring tries. Says Eric. And we have their watch for the Jake White balloon pass. And who is the dominant team? We haven't really had a dominant team, to be honest. Like, they've been relatively even. We've had a bit of ugliness at scrum time. Our both sides kind of standing up. But I think there's only been maybe 1 or 2 penalties throughout the match. Maybe even less than that for scrums, actually, now that I think about it. Now Nick White, 22 metres out from the line. The Western Force trying their best to break through this opposition. Amish Stewart almost snuck through, but he's tackled by Tyke Furlong. Nick White back across to the left-hand side. Stepping there was Matt Greeley. Thought about the offload. Decides against it in the end. 10 metres out from the line for the Force with a man advantage. Put in phase after phase together, but there's a neck roll. So they will go back. It's probably Darcy Swain. No, it's Brandon Poyanga Mosa who ends up with that one. Do you think Finn Smith should have started in the 10 jersey? I would say based off what we've seen from Finn Russell here, no. I think that Russell's been very solid at 10 throughout this match. He's got a couple try assists because of his decision-making. Like, don't get me wrong, Finn Smith, very talented player, but this was the right decision, I believe, with Russell in that 10 jersey. LSU out of Hamburg, and can't wait for the Bock and Bar Bars. Nice job, brother. Says Pietz there. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated being here. Of course, like I said, an hour build-up. It sounds like a long time, but when we start talking rugby, it absolutely flies by, and the game will be here well before we know it. In fact, that game kicking off in 4 hours' time, so we are getting even closer by the second. Now, Dan Sheehan ready to throw this line out in. For scrum coaches, Mike Cron's son. So that's some good pedigree, says Studs Rays. Oh, slapped away. Nick White back across to the left-hand side. Another step there from Greeley. Didn't really get a huge amount of touches throughout that first half, but seems to come into his own in the most recent period. Dylan Peach trying to step through. Great low tack on him by Gary Ringrose. Just a consistent option at outside centre for the Lions. Draw finish as a Western Force win. My mind says Beekeeper. I honestly think anything close in this game should be held in high regard for the Western Force. Like I said, they were $16 underdogs heading into this game. We'll be here for the build-up. So here's MB4. That is going to be a penalty now to the Force. Okay, obstruction from Mac Hansen. And good blitz defense by the Lions, early in the second half. Now just the 3 minutes and a half remaining of the yellow card. Not a huge amount of time. One's going to be kicked in a touch by Ben Donaldson. It would be a Perth holiday if they win. And asking, who do you think is going to win between the Springboks and the Barbarians? Oh, the Springboks should. With the lineup that they've got, they should be able to win it. But, you know, a few debutants in the mix, although I don't think this counts as an official cap. Couple shuffles per se, but backline absolutely stacked for them in that game. Nice inside ball from Donaldson. So yeah, I'd be surprised if the Boks were to lose. But then the rain can kind of change the game a little bit. Who got the card? It was Henry Pollock. Did end up with the yellow card against him. Oh, drop ball from Sam Carter. He's had his fair share of injuries in this game. Fair share of mistakes, I should say. Now, backline movement here. Hansen, inside ball to James Lowe. Almost had his pants pulled down on the halfway line, but he passes on the outside. Finds Thomas Williams. So many options for the Lions. Ball on the outside. Thomas Williams scores his second. He grips his hamstring or underwear. It's one of the two. I think it was just he got a wedgie. As he looks like he's going to be all right now. That was it. Oh, no, it was the hamstring. And that is a bit of concern there for Thomas Williams, who has been a standout throughout this game. That is the second try of the night. Who said Thomas Williams the scorer? It was predicted, yeah. Done extremely well in that regard, but the breaking run, Low got the ball from Hansen, had about 3 men he could have passed to all the way through. Tyke Byrne was up there trying to win the foot race, but then nicely done from James Lowe. Very similar to how that first try between Sheehan and Lowe was set up. And then Thomas Williams, we're going to see it here. Does he stride a little bit too hard? Oh, yeah, no, I'm not too sure what it was. But he's down at the moment, Thomas Williams. Finn Russell unable to add the extra 2. 26 points to 7 now. But I don't think they're going to want to risk Williams here. So I would say, yeah, that doesn't look too good. The way that he's gripping up there, like I said, it was either the hamstring gave way or he got a massive wedgie from diving. And unfortunately, I think he would have been preferring a wedgie about now, as it looked like he's going to make his way off of the field. They do not want to risk losing him. Of course, we'll get some sort of update, hopefully within the next couple of days. It does bring Alex Mitchell onto the field. Henry doesn't surprise me, a good player. It's like he gets too excited in the game. What was the card for? Just for joining a breakdown and not releasing when the Western Force were on attack. And that's really bad news. Hope just precaution. Yeah, he's still got a bit of a limp, although looked like he was moving not too badly as he made his way off. 8 on the Under-20 World Cup tomorrow. We are hoping to do multiple games of that one. I think tomorrow the main one we'll be doing is the Junior Box versus, I think they're playing Australia, and then if we're doing another one after that, it would be New Zealand, Italy for that first round. But yeah, I'm hoping to do most of New Zealand's and most of South Africa's games for the Under-20 World Championship. That's going to be now Another penalty, this time going the way of the British and Irish Lions. Looks like Alex Mitchell wanted to take it quickly. Nick White was giving him a cuddle, saying, no, it's not happening. We have good there, but if you look back, the Box only won one match against the Barbars. That's true, but the last time that they played was about 10 years or even longer than that ago. And, records, or in terms of head-to-heads, depending on when they've come from, can be quite deceptive. There's no denying that the Barbarians have a pretty decent record up against South Africa, but none of the guys who are in the environment now, I believe, were even playing the last time that the two sides went head-to-head. Plus, with the Barbarians changing their lineup each and every game due to the squad always changing, it makes it very tough to judge. So I wouldn't be too concerned if, that head-to-head's got you a bit worried. Right, Ty Byrne going to make his way off the field now. 49 minutes in. Pollock back on. Yeah. Are they going to leave him on, though? Looks like it. Tyke Furlong off for Will Stewart. We see Cummings. He's making his way off for Ollie Chisholm. I think if you're having the Savage back, Amish, that's why we love you, says Christopher. And also, that's real bad news. I know I read that one about the injury. Yeah, hopefully he's going to be all right, Thomas Williams, because he would be such a dangerous player to lose. We see Carter off the field. That is for 5-4 for the Western Force. I also did see that Jack Conan, he's made his way on, and that was for Tyke Byrne. Barbars record versus Box not as good as Lions record against the Pumas before last weekend, says user. And also that fixture isn't considered or generally considered a serious affair. It's usually an exhibition game, both the Barbars and the Box. Here's MB4. James Loke kicking that one into touch. 30 minutes left here. Currently a very handy lead of 19 points for the British and Irish Lions. Seeing lineouts lost just the one. And that was actually for the British and Irish Lions. 11 from 11 for the Western Force, which is quite interesting because throughout Super Rugby Pacific, they actually had the best lineout accuracy of any side. The only side just behind them was the Crusaders, who did go on to win the whole competition. But it was one of those stats that I found quite interesting in terms of that lineout accuracy has been on point for this year. Nick White does kick that one into touch. Almost hit the Lion. But now lineout chance for the British and Irish Lions again. Come on, Force, you can do it. It's going to take a monumental one now. Mentioned about that first 10-minute period after the break. That was when the damage was going to be done for the Western Force if they were going to get back into this game. And sadly, just seems like it's sneaking a little bit further away now. James Lowe trying to step up the middle of the field. Back down by 5-4. Now Dan Sheehan. I would assume that he won't be a mile off getting subbed off as well, other than the fact that he is the captain, Henry Pollock. Low shot on him by Matt Proctor. Is there a big crowd? How full is the crowd? About 45,000 in attendance for this one. Ball on the outside of Mac Hansen inside pass to Finn Russell. He's going to back his pace. In fact, no, it's Gary Ringrose. I should have known when he started sprinting. But another try by the British and Irish Lions. What looked like a close game is now getting a little bit further away. King Horn will be in the taxi to the airport before he gets a chance to go to the locker rooms. G'day, Hamish and our Kiwi lads, neighbours. Extremely good to see you. See, here's JD, welcome in. And also we have got there as Pollock on. Yeah, he is indeed back on the field. Yeah, good quick hands from Daly. Found it on the inside to Ringrose. And does score the try. Deserved try as well after the way that he has been able to defend. Oh, that was a flat pass on the outside. Initially to Mac Hansen, but might have just been the angle. At Optus, it has looked a little bit like an optical illusion. 28 minutes still left, and this might get even more ugly for the Western Force now. Paul Force says just poker. And also, yep, Nye's out for White and his little stash. And when is the Six Nations starting? February next year is when the Six Nations will be coming back. So quite a bit of time. Of course, a lot of international rugby, though, taking place for those Northern Hemisphere sides before then. July internationals are all taking place outside of the British and Irish Lions for the respective teams of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. And then also the November internationals. They'll be here before we know it as well. And glad they're playing attacking rugby, says Rod O'Connor. And yeah, it's been a bit of an aggressive style that we've seen from the Lions, but I do think that's the best way to be able to beat these Aussie sides. And it's been effective throughout the second half and parts of the first two. Now Nick White on the halfway line for the Western Force rush defence from Ollie Chisholm. Ekwasi, he's been taken off for Reed Prinsep. Now Donaldson pops it on the inside. Struggling to get through at the moment here for the Western Force. This is the first home test for the Springboks versus the Barbars. That is correct. And 7:33, says Eric. And there as well now, Hamish Stewart going back across. Nick White still around their halfway line at the moment for this Western Force side. Oh, big driving tackle from Conan and Van den Flair, the two Irish internationals linking up with Robertson now. Tackled around the halfway line. Nick White getting his legs stuck under the breakdown, but manages to get the ball away. Prinsep drops it. Picked up by Pollock. Chip and chase. Pure pace. Waiting for the bounce of the ball. Picks it up. Slam down. One of the offload. Has to get back up and has another crack and drag down just 2 minutes short of the try line. It's almost a bit of individual brilliance, but they are only a couple metres out from the line now. Van den Flair. Wide pass. McCarthy does slide in and score for the Lions. I almost said for Ireland there. It almost snuck out. But Joe McCarthy, the big man, scores. And this is becoming an onslaught here from the British and Irish Lions. Any substitutes? I believe they made about 4. I think that they've taken off both of their props for Stewart and Porter. They have left Dan Sheehan on for now. Ollie Chisholm's on for Scott Cummings. Tyke Burns off and Jack Conan's on. I believe those are all the switches they have had. I'm from South Africa, but I love Dalton Papali'i, says Quandele. So I'm sure you were very happy when you saw that he did get added into that All Blacks squad. Pollock watching New Zealand rugby woot. Or what going on with the band, Artie Savia, says JD. And Western Force lost their spirit. Yeah, it's not going well in the second half. It's been pretty relentless from the British and Irish Lions, who have scored 3 times in 15 minutes. So, yeah. What about Pollock? He's making the Force players look like kids, says WLK. And also we have the hairdressing lessons by Joe McCarthy and Nick White. Lions starting to play simple, commit and pass rugby, simple and effective, says Mike. And also this could be 6 or 7 to 60. Going at 8 or 6, I guess. Yeah, I think he will be at 6. Unless they've moved Pollock to 6, which they possibly could. Right, Ringrose is off, and that's going to bring Hugh Jones onto the field now. Another sub for the Lions. And Max Bury hits the ball up. Nick White, rough pass there. The pressure is on now, and the onslaught is still coming. Great hustle there from Dan Sheehan. Go back for an original knock on. It's going to be a scrum feed for the Western Force. Brandon Payanga-Mosa taken off for Horton. Pearce on the field for Robertson. And yeah, Hugh Jones says Demon the 11th. Yeah, I know a lot of people wanted to see him get minutes for this matchup. And Van den Flair 6, Pollock 7, Conan 8. Scrum, please, says username. Well, we are about to see said scrum. So it should let us know, although for now we're just looking at the Western Force bench. Right, it looks like Conan 6, Van den Flair 7, and then off the back, Henry Pollock at number 8. So they've actually only gone straight swap Conan at 6 for Tyke Burn. James O'Connor, they need you, says Beekeeper. And it could be a very long 25 minutes for the Force now. And score irrelevant now, just no more injuries. Great commentary, amazing to comment live while commenting on the comments. Just one thing, it's Van den Flair, not Van den Flair. Says Austin there. Now nicely taken around the halfway line. I think it's just sometimes when I say it too quick, I end up getting an N rather than an nice steal there for the Lions, kicking it in behind. And this will be a foot race. Looks like it's just going to curve a little bit, but it's in the in-goal area. Forced down by Hamish Stewart, and it will be the goal line dropout now for the Western Force. But that was almost try number about 7 on this British and Irish Lions side. We have got their Force got a hold on. I see a 73-point scoreline. South Africans who came for a hate watch, or a hate watch, are you crying it? We haven't actually had too many people hating against the Lions on the stream. It's actually been quite pleasant I would say. Now it's going to be kicked downfield. Oh, slap back. Nicely claimed, although a little knock on there actually from Hugh Jones. And really enjoying your commentary, mate. And can just about get my head around the Askint. But you need help to pronounce some of the Lions' name. Fanfurflyer, not Van Dinflair. Tell you what, I must have really butchered his name at one point, didn't I? Everyone's ripping in. Funderflair. There we go. See, when I say it quick, I get a little bit too carried away. But now Nick White is going to be taken off the field, and that's going to be for Robertson. Great commentary, says Vincent. Other than, of course, Funderflair. Now 22 minutes remaining, and it will be the scrum now. Luckily, Joshua isn't the man who was feeding it in. Nick White, though, busy game for him in the number 9 jersey. And 4 score represents the number of Lions tries. See his username. Oh, sorry, that was just user. And Nick White subbed, gutted. Says Mike. Now, ball available here for the Western Force. Hamish Stewart kicking downfield. Finds a little bit of open space, but at the back is Elliot Daly ready for it. As Aki injured or not picked for this game, just not picked for this match. They have got a massive squad, so they will want to rotate them quite heavily throughout their games. And I do think that midfield combo, they are pretty spoiled in terms of who they have got available. Scrum half mustaches. It's General Melchett versus breaking the line. Here comes Josh Van der Flair. There we go. Oh, that's a knock on though. And it's gone straight into the hands of the Western Force. Kicked him behind from Ben Donaldson. Running back Mac Hansen manages to claim. It looked like Donaldson was tackling him on the ground. Good hands from Hugh Jones. And we have got there Van der Flair. Try saying it like that, mate. Commentary as usual, mate. Says Terrence. Now kick down the middle of the field. Aki wasn't injured, leaving Dublin. Says Vincent. And there too. Oh, offload there. Oh, it's dropped though. About as simple of a catch as you would have liked for the Western Force. And Henry Robertson just has it slip through. Mac Hansen putting in a big shift there. Did you say Thomas Williams got subbed after his potential hamstring tweak? He did indeed, yes. So they didn't want to risk him anymore. And I'm slightly concerned that it could be something a little bit more serious. You can call Van der Flair the Flying Dutchman. There's user. But yeah, big celebration there from Andy Farrell. He'll be loving that work rate of Matt Hansen, who looks like he's still catching his breath a little bit after the big shift that he did put in. Now, 20 minutes remaining. A long quarter if you are the Western Force when you're already down by 33. Bro, this is only the Force. It should be 1,000-0. So here's Tanner, and the penalty goes the way of the Lions. There was a slight consideration of the quick tap that lead to one of the many tries that we've seen from the Lions in this contest, but instead they will kick it towards the corner. Finn Russell, about 8 metres out from the line now. This is where we might see that rolling more. We haven't really seen it a huge amount throughout this game. As this Force main issue, 0 bench impact, says Studs Rays. Well, the biggest problem for the Force, if we're looking at this game in particular, normally they would have Carlo Tizzano, who's scored the most tries out of any player in Super Rugby Pacific. He is not there. They'd also normally have that slight bit of experience in Curtly Beale, which I do think adds quite a bit to this side. But throughout their season, they did just struggle to find that next gear. And I don't think it's so much the bench impact. I think it's just they get tired. And yes, you could say that the bench should be able to help that a bit, but the guys who start the game just don't seem to be able to keep the tempo. Do you think warm-up or 6 warm-up games for the Lions before the first Australia game? Do you think 6 warm-ups game, I assume, is too much as the end of that sentence? To me, it could mean a lot of potential injuries before their first game. It is quite a lot, don't get me wrong, but it is normally roughly what they do. I do believe it's normally a 10-match tour, no matter where they go. What's your next game, says Robert? Next match will be the Barbarians taking on the Springboks, and that one is going to be taking place in about 2.5 hours' time that the live stream is starting, but it will be 3.5 hours to the start of that match. Fingers crossed it's just a slight pull. He'll be back for the next warm-up game. Smart move to get him off as soon as it happened. And yeah, it is a long tour. So the last thing that you want is to go, oh, he'll be right. We'll chuck him back out there, see what happens, and then just absolutely butcher that hamstring in the next run. But Marcus Smith, he makes his way on. That is for Finn Russell, who is now making his way off. All about to be fed in here by the Western Force, who are only 10 metres out from their own line. That is a big push from the lines at scrum time. Bit of a rough pass on the outside, but well cleaned up by Bailey Quinzel. That was probably the most dominant scrum we've seen of the day. So did Russell miss the conversion? He has missed 1 out of his 6 attempts in this matchup. Again, Lions beat their previous points difference versus the Force, I think 52, says user. I think the Brumbies and the Reds beat this Lion side, just my opinion. Do not take it as gospel. Although I do think that depending on which Wallabies they have for those two sides, might play a bit of a factor. A bit of a rough pass on the outside, but it did sit up for Quinzel in the end. The good old days of rugby tours were absolutely brutal. An unbeaten away tour was always a sign of a great team, and momentum as well, truly on the Lions side. How long to go? Currently still 17 minutes remaining in this contest. Right, Andrew Porter's been told to put his boot on. And he's not happy with Ben O'Keefe there, because he's going, how quickly do you want me to put on my boot? Hasn't even done up the bootlaces. I think they were getting called out for time wasting. They're up by 33 points. I don't think it's a tactic to try and avoid a few more seconds of play here. I think if a man's boot falls off, it's probably fallen off. But Mac Hansen, oh, he's dropped that ball. Is that also a stalling tactic, perhaps? Because now we're going to have a scrum. Scrum feed for the Western Force here, 40 metres out from their own line. They just haven't really mounted much of an offense throughout the second half. Their best period of this game was between 3 and 13 minutes. Other than that, though, the Lions do seem to have had their number. They've gelled a bit better in this second half. Looks like now Ollie Hoskins, he will make his way off, and that is for Tian Tawakipulu. Lions series is good for Aussie rugby, competing with the NRL, AFL, and A-League, says JD. I think the Lions will beat them both. And, okay, George, fair enough. Yeah, it's great to see so many British and Irish Lions kits in the stands as well. Quite a few Western Force kits too, across Optus Stadium. They might not be quite too happy with what we've seen here. I'm going to have dinner. Thanks for entertaining me. Can I have one more shout out? Say Byron, thanks. So yeah, shout out to you, of course. And we will be back for that Springboks versus Barbarians matchup. Be sure to pop in for that one as well. Why wasn't Ben O'Keefe in charge of any Super Rugby semis or final? It's a good question. I think that the Brumbies game had Ben O'Keefe, or sorry, not Ben O'Keefe, had Nick Berry. So I think it had to be one Australian referee in there. And then I can't remember who the other one was for the Kiwi Blues Crusaders. Was that Angus Gardner or was it someone else? Now we have all learned that Argentina is way better than the Force. That's probably something we should have known. But yeah, I'm curious to see how Argentina go in their matches during July. Got up against an English side who won't have their, of course, British and Irish Lions players. Now line out throw here for Nick Dolly. Ready to throw this ball in. Once again, I'll mention best line out in Super Rugby Pacific in terms of accuracy, and that seems to have continued in this match. A little bit of a cross kick there. Really, really terrible bounce of the ball. It ends up going into touch, and Elliot Daly did slightly consider that quick throw for half a second. Our Lions fans, as a bonus majority of test matches covered in red waves. Absolutely fantastic, folks. And hi, Hamish, says Daniel. Welcome in. Just showing the next game that is taking place of this tour. The Reds taking on the British and Irish Lions. That is Wednesday night here in New Zealand. It will be around lunchtime of the kickoff for you guys in the UK. We will be covering that one on the channel. So be sure to keep an eye on that as well. James Lowe off to Sione Tuipulotu. We now see Dan Sheehan taken off for Ronan Kelleher. Now Mitchell goes across again to Conan. I would say that all of the subs have been made here for the British and Irish Lions now. I don't believe there's anyone who is left on their bench. Do we know what the crowd number is for the game? It was expected 45,000. I'd say they wouldn't be a mile off that in terms of the amount of seats that are filled, but I'd say 40 plus thousand. the score. At the moment, the score is 40 points to 7. James Lowe passes it back across to Sione Tuipulotu. Skip past Elliot Daly. Now finds McCarthy on the outside. Cutting back in. Donaldson makes the tackle on him. I mentioned at the start of this game how Donaldson, he is in the Wallaby squad, so he'll be able to pass on the inside knowledge, but I think that they've definitely learned a lot from this game, the Western Force. But some of them, not the best for them. Marcus Smith, little kick in behind, does go into touch. Have you noticed the Lions often joining the breakdown on the side rather than from behind the last man's feet? Says Roger. The breakdowns are very quick in this game, I will say. Like, both sides straight in there. What kind of haircut does Smith have? I can't comment on haircuts because I'm not really one to talk. I've had some pretty brutal ones in my time. But it bounces, doesn't it? Now Ronan Kelleher, 10 metres out from the line. Here for the Lions. Across to Ollie Chisholm. 2 metres now between the Lions and another one that was taken out. That looked illegal. But it's going to be a turnover there for the Western Force. Saying that the man was trying to win the ball, so it will be all right. Now Ben Donaldson kicking down towards the sideline. Well covered by Elliot Daly, who had to run about 30 metres just to get to that ball. Nice step from the English fullback. Goes off to James Lowe on the short side. Offloads over the top to Pollock. And now another advantage. And the penalty does go the way of the British and Irish Lions. Well, that's a good number. Says George. A little bit of push between James Lowe and Hamish Stewart as he's trying to get that ball. Looks like an injury here for the Western Force. Smith's always had bouncy here. Says Wemma. How's the Lions line-out looked? Have they got it sorted yet? I think they've lost 2 line-outs throughout this game, but it has looked a lot better than that first match up against Argentina, in which they were losing kind of every second or third line-out, wasn't it? Which didn't make a lot of sense at times because it was, an English hooker throwing to an English lock and then an Irish hooker throwing to an Irish lock, but something just wasn't quite working out. 46,656 in the crowd, according to BBC, largest crowd in WF history, says Paul there. Don't worry about haircut when the top of the head is always bald, says Patrick. Nicely taken by the British and Irish Lions, 10 metres out from the line again. And that's another advantage here going against Nick Champion to Chris Pigney. That was for side entry. Smithy didn't have much here in the Beano. How's Smith at 10, how's Marcus at 10, and how is Elliot being class? And has Elliot been class at 15? Elliot Daly's had a really good game from that 15 jersey. He hasn't been troubled too much by the Force, so defensively it's probably a bit harder to judge, but honestly, in terms of his attack, he's done very well. Spain is my country to be the next dominant rugby nation. I mean, they're already taken over in the 7 side of things a little bit. It's been absolutely fantastic to see what Paul Pla and his his Spanish side have been able to do. They've got some world-class players, La Forga, Manu Moreno. One's gone into touch. Nicely done. And now another attacking opportunity for said Lions. They'll be about 5 metres out from the line now. From what I read on the BBC, the last time the British and Irish Lions played here, the crowd was just over 32,000, says George. So, rapidly growing for this one, which is fantastic to see. And a match with the best players from the Six Nations against the best players from the Rugby Championship would be interesting. Best of the Southern against the best of the Northern, says Austin. Now Henry Pollock, middle of the field, 3 metres out from the try line. The Lions, it's been a little bit of a quiet patch. They scored 3 tries at the start of the second half. We've actually gone 25 minutes without a Lions try. Or 15 minutes. It's felt like a little bit longer, but I'd say we're only about maybe 10 seconds away from seeing another Josh Van Den Flare pick and go just short of the try line once more. I messed up his name again because I said it too fast, but now Henry Pollock just short of the line. Another penalty advantage. It can go. Getting that little bit closer for Andrew Porter. Joe McCarthy goes back across to Alex Mitchell. Directional switch. Marcus Smith. Short ball to Elliot Daly, who will run it in untouched and unbothered. Scores the try. And the Smith and Daly combo linking up nicely. Try for the British and Irish Lions, says Derek there. And Force really gutsy defence for had to break, says Studs Race. Yeah, that was probably one of their better stages of stopping the Lions. Smith just with a great draw and pass. And considering that Western Australia is more ARL territory, Rugby, it has definitely made its mark. A wooden spoon of Super Rugby, says JD. The wooden spoon of Super Rugby was actually the Highlanders. Fun fact. Who did finish below the Western Force. Same with the Fijian drawer. As well as, was there one more who were below them? Oh no, Force were 9th. Yeah, so Highlanders actually got the wooden spoon this year. Fijian drawer got themselves second last on the same amount of points. Points differential was pretty brutal for the draw throughout the season. Force actually didn't do too badly in terms of points difference, though, compared to a couple sides above them. I don't want to say it, Hamish, says JD. I don't mind saying it. Highlanders were really bad this year, unfortunately, but they had a few shining lights. Mofi Tavatavanawa, of course, going to make his way into that All Blacks lineup, hopefully at some stage throughout July. Western Australia is poor. And also, we have got there, I had 19 points difference for this game in favour of the Lions. My original score for myself, I think I said 45-15. So I need another Western Force try just to give us some sort of closeness to it. But I thought about a 30-point margin could be on the cards. McCarthy, after Ronan Killar, and again, they will break away. He's gone for the chip in behind. There's some confidence coming from the forwards of this Lions side, having a run straight sideways there to look for the cut, or the kick was Bury. 30 metres out, and again, the Lions are just pouring it on for the final 7 minutes. This is an exhausting pace for these two teams. Don't think Western Australia were poor. Lions just seem to have found their pace this half. Says Matt, yeah, those 3 quick-fire tries in 15 minutes at the start of the half. If the Force had got themselves 1 try within the first 10 minutes and avoided conceding those 3, it could have been a lot closer. But, yeah, the Lions just right from the get-go found their rhythm and are really trying to punish them here. 47 points this far. Oh, Alex Mitchell, brilliant offload as he's being tackled by Reed Prinsep. Now Mitchell, back across to the right-hand side. Hugh Jones trying to sneak his way through. And we have got there, this NRL fan must think that's more live outside of Australia. I mean, Rugby is more worldwide than the 2 states. I think it's Vanderflyer or Vanderflyer. Says personalised knives. Now Alex Mitchell, short ball to James Lowe, who did knock it backwards, they have said. Off to the left-hand side, Ollie Chisholm. Sione Tuipulotu, a bit of a rough pass to Conan, bit too low. Oh, who headbutts the ball out of frustration. But now 6 minutes left. Is there going to be one more try for the Western Force, ladies and gents? Yes or no? Force getting whipped like that. I don't know about that one. Lions needed to make a statement tonight, says Ed Smith. A massive scar on those Lions. Was it Wolverine or the Pumas? Says JD. And Conan looks like a real barbar. Says Roger. As in like, and was Conan a barbarian? Says Eric. I think I watched that movie when I was younger. I don't actually remember any of it other than there was a room with mirrors, wasn't there? And then some random bloke popped out and said, boo. I don't know if I'm remembering the right movie. 1200 in the chat. Give a bit of like for Hamish, said Studs Race. And Peter was, that was the American team, said Sucker Bull. On a high five, Eric. Says Roger there too. Yeah, anyone who hasn't already, be sure, of course, to hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back on Wednesday for the Reds versus British and Irish Lions matchup. Passing away to the left-hand side now. Donaldson going to Stewart. Can they get some sort of move going? Ball out to Bailey Quinzel. Tackled round the halfway line. That's Conan the Destroyer. What's the difference? That's probably offended anyone who's like a Conan fan. Like, is that the second movie or is that a different spin-off? But now nicely taken by Ben Donaldson. He has no room to work with. Henry Pollock was there alongside Tui Pilotu, who's a bit slow getting back up to his feet after that tackle. As Scribe says, David, thank you very much, mate. Greatly appreciated. With Swiss women's team, says Vincent, should the Lions start touring Argentina? I actually think that after the way that match was received, that tour of Argentina would be quite cool. Oh, that's a nice breaking run here, though, for the Australians. I think the trouble, though, would be finding enough opposition for them. But I think you could look at getting Canada, USA, those type of sides involved for the sake of, adding a few more eyes to that stage of the tour. Maybe even, it's a very long flight, but you could fly a Japanese side over maybe or something like that, just to have enough teams. Now, off to the left-hand side, big shot from Porter, only 4.5 minutes remaining. Conan the Barbarian is part 1, Destroyer is part 2 with the Mirror Sorcerer, says Alamata's there. Right, I've learnt something new today. Will I remember it tomorrow? Possibly not, but I'll try my best. Oh, a little chip in my eye from Burry. Go back for another penalty here. The discipline is starting to slip as this match is worn on for both sides. So I think that's just down to fatigue. They should tour Ireland. As in Argentina should, or the British and Irish Lions. Cristiano. I hope you're saying Argentina. Lions need to tour France with side trips to Italy, Georgia, Romania, Portugal, longer tour. Says user. Even if, but then I guess I was going to say even if it was every second year, but I guess every second year, of course, you've got the World Cup. So that probably is something that they want to avoid overlapping with. Up the line, says Ed Smith. Now line out throw for the Force. Can they get something? We need to put the Rugby Championship team together and tour Great Britain and Ireland, says JD. Now line out. 3 minutes. Oh, that was an interesting one. Didn't throw the ball, Nick Dolly. They threw him up and didn't go for it. Does mean now that they have got the free kick. Henry Pollock, ball in hand. So you're just looking at a quick tap. He's still hanging on to it. Marcus Smith, it actually looks like he's going to go for the up and under instead. And British and Irish Lions versus France, great idea. And Argentina must tour Ireland, says Cristiano. That's nicely taken there by the Western Force round halfway. Matt Greeley tackling himself. Ended up slipping over on the field. Joe McCarthy wanted the turnover. The ball stays on the side of the Force. Ben Donaldson, wide cut out pass now. Nick Dolly down the wing trying to show off his pace in a step. Gets round Jack Conan but dragged down by Smith. Donaldson, rush defence there from Porter, who was just a little bit offside. In fact, I think it was Chisholm who's been penalised for that one. I'm wondering where the outage is for Green. And we have got there, besides the two franchises that play Super Americas, the rest of the teams in Argentina are amateur. Not a good tour. That's where you have to look at other countries. Chile, for instance, Uruguay. 2 easy matches that they could do location-wise that would make sense. You could bring the US and Canada down. We have got there, well, I generally thought Lions would put 2 or more on the Force. Western Force have played pretty well, says Studs Race. Just showing the line there. 90 seconds remaining. Of course, a long tour. Thomas Williams, the big concern at the moment in terms of injuries. Do you know anything about the public toilets, says Ed? I know absolutely nothing about said toilets. Are they like magic or something? It's always awesome to listen to you, my bro, says Richard. Thank you very much for being here. All loose ball picked up again by Will Harris. Now, it's good to see that he managed to play the 80 after the HIA earlier on in the match. Good to see Cantab Bourne Harford playing, says Chris Lord. Back across 22 metres from the line. This is where the Force, yes, it wouldn't win them this game, but to score the last try in this contest, I think would be quite a nice finish for them. Just one more moment. If you're the Western Force and you concede the ball, though, you probably would expect the British and Irish Lions to kick that ball out rather than taking the risk if it is after the 80 minutes. The last thing that they want is to try and go for one more try and then get the try. And then get the injury. Can't risk losing Williams with Gibson Park, still a doubt. Says Fleshin. I know they were on TV a few years ago. Filming the toilet seems like an interesting combo. I assume there must have been something wrong with them. Now, loose ball. Matt Hansen puts it on the inside of Marcus Smith. 6 seconds remaining. Big shot on him by Darcy Swain. Now, Matt Hansen goes back on the inside to Henry Pollock. Back into the pocket. James Lowe. Are they going to run it? Looks like they're going to try. This is risky here for the Lions. I mean, I have to admire it. Looks like an injury there for the Western Force. You have to kick this out, don't you? Like, I get that you want to get one more. That was a high tackle attempt there. Now Daly puts it across to Sione Tuipulotu. If anyone blows a hamstring from here, it's their own fault. Mac Hansen, ball off to Alex Mitchell. They will score it. And from the looks of it, they made it out of it injury-free. That's the main thing. You always worry when there's a breakaway when they've been playing for 81 minutes and you just wait for someone's leg to go down. But Mitchell, hey, what if it was him? They would have been in a bit of trouble for halfbacks. And a great last-minute try, and the try that brings up the 50 points. No, they were fancy toilets, says Ed Smith. If France can really do a tour to South Africa again, we are forever playing them in Paris. You're thinking Enter the Dragon for the movie, and do you remember how do you remember names so quickly? Lions are an amalgamation of players, says Derek. I think it's just because I know all the players from the Six Nations as well as their respective competitions around the world. I don't know how to say that word apparently though. However, that looks like Thomas is injured from reports, says Hammer. Yeah, went off with a hamstring injury after scoring his second try of the match. And overall, how do you think Pollock played? He had some good moments. He had some rough ones in there too, but he's one of those guys who's going to go at 150 every time he's out there on the park. So, of course, that's going to bring occasional errors. Started the match with a knock-on. Then he got the try assist, had a few other good moments, got a yellow card, came back out, put in a few big hits and kept on going about his work. Even though he did have that yellow to his name, he still went aggressive and tried to get that steal. So I'd give him probably a 6 out of 10. That might sound a bit harsh, but I think there are a few guys who definitely had better games, such as a Thomas Williams and Elliot Daly. Gary Ringrose was pretty solid from 13-2. Crusaders put 50 on the Lions, says Chris Lord. Well, luckily, in 4 years' time, you'll get to find out. A nice ease into the tour game. Says Flesh in there. Yeah, definitely a little bit more one-sided than it looked like it was going to be after the start the Force had, but unfortunately after that start, there was just nothing left in the tank for the Western Force. Great commentary again. Many thanks. Hamish says, John, no worries at all. And of course, ladies and gents, be sure to tune in only about 2 hours, 15 minutes game, or 15 minutes time, I should say, sorry, for that match between the Springboks and the Barbarians. We have got a whole hour of build-up where we will be looking through at stats. We'll be looking through at who's in the teams, who's in the squads too, as we move through international rugby season. As bad as the Force is, the Lions team is really strong. Says Just Spoke a Bee and great live stream, mate, says Hammer. And old mate stuck in a public dunny. Don't use all the roles, mate, says JD. And good for you, Joe McCarthy. Yeah, he also had a pretty solid game out there on the field. But yeah, intriguing enough contest in terms of building enough hype for that next game up against the Reds for the British and Irish Lions. That has taken place on Wednesday. We will be covering that one on the channel too. We've got all the times in British Standard Time, but also we've got them in New Zealand time straight after that. But 11 a.m. kickoff for all these games. And then if you're in New Zealand, that is a 10 p.m. kickoff. Or in Australia, I believe that's 8 p.m. depending on where you are around Australia. So still a little bit of time till we get to see that first match between the Wallabies and the British and Irish Lions. Ben Donaldson definitely would have learned a few things in this matchup playing for the Force. They'll need to be better. The Australians, of course, very hard to judge what the Wallabies will be like from the British and Irish from the Western Force. But I think that they'll be able to pick up on a few things. Matt Proctor having the chat there with Henry Pollock. All chatter at the moment, all the players. There was a little bit of a scrap earlier on, but it seems like everyone has got along now. Barbarians team is stacked. It certainly is. It's going to be a good one to look through and a great game to be able to commentate later on as well. A big match later in awful wintry wet conditions. Yeah, it doesn't look great for the weather report, but hopefully the rugby is great. And then, of course, the Under-20 World Cup taking place in the very near future. We are also going to be covering those ones on the channel too. Top commentary, thanks, says Roger. No worries at all. Cheers, mate. Great commentary, says Matt. And there too. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all in a couple hours' time for that next massive matchup.